Let's do the pledge of allegiance.
Hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, Cameron. Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Chair Gary Cushing,
Here.
Vice Chair Jamie Labor,
Here.
Commissioner Aaron Todd,
Present.
Commissioner Cameron Carrizales,
Here.
Commissioner Miguel Magallanes.
Here.
Okay, we have oral communications. This is an opportunity for citizen presentations or comments not related to agenda items, but within the responsibility of the Fillmore Planning Commission. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. I don't have any speaker cards for that, right? No, okay. Okay, consent calendar. Minutes of the September 18th, 2024 regular Planning Commission meeting. Planning Commission minutes 18/10/2024 final PDF.
Before there's a motion on that, I'd like to just note that a brief correction should be made. I'm referred to as the acting city attorney. It should be assistant city attorney in the minutes.
Okay, so noted. Okay, do we have a motion?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of September 18th, 2024, regular planning commission with the changes from going to acting to assistant attorney.
Okay, all right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes. Okay, well, next is a public hearing, consideration of zoning ordinance amendment number 24-02 and ordinance 24-976, allowing non-storefront medical cannabis retailers in the BP zone and medicinal cannabis deliveries as required by state law, and findings of CEQA exemption.
Good evening, Chair, Planning Commission, City of Fillmore. Let me open my PowerPoint here really quick. Looks like we've got a new system. What is happening? Okay. This is the ordinance for the medical marijuana facilities and mobile medical marijuana deliveries, not to be confused with the cannabis ordinances that were considered several years ago and shot down. Those elements are still in place in the municipal code. This is responding to a state assembly bill, and it's involving medical marijuana only. Senate Bill 1186 was passed, I believe it was 2 years ago, comes into effect January of 2025. And so we have responded to the Senate bill by amending the zoning ordinance through a zoning ordinance amendment and ordinance 24-976, which will ultimately go on to the City Council. So you are a recommending body. This amendment will amend code sections, Fillmore Municipal Code section 6.04, 1203, 6.0416, and 7.04.010, and 7.40.040 to allow non-storefront medical cannabis retailers in the business park zone and 2 medical cannabis delivery within city limits. This is the business park zone. This is where we will allow for medical marijuana, cannabis, non-storefront facilities to be located. You can see it's on the outskirts of town in the business park, which contains similar related compatible uses, which haven't yet been built, but should buildings be built, someday you could, in fact, put in a non-storefront medical marijuana facility, and it would be delivery only. In short, on Senate Bill 1186, the city must adopt at least one zone district. That's why we selected the business park. If we don't adopt a zone district, well, then the whole city is subject to medical marijuana facilities, anywhere and everywhere. The city can also adopt reasonable regulations that can be enforced at a local level as allowed by SB 1186. To that end, medical cannabis businesses and delivery would involve, under local ordinance you're recommending tonight, enclosed buildings, possibly warehouses, and distribution facilities where the products can be stored and loaded for distribution to patients, not for customers to come in and buy things off the shelf. Delivering only, on-site customer sales prohibited. To get an application to construct a facility or operate within an existing building, you've got to apply for a conditional use permit. You have to have all the appropriate licensing, and we will review those permits and licensing for security and health purposes. We'll also be having an operations plan required, and the conditions of approval on any such use will be reviewed and recommended by the police department as well as the community development department. The Fillmore Municipal Code amendments are in detail in your packet. You have the actual full sections of the municipal code. I didn't want to put those full sections in slides, but in short, I thought I would just list which sections those are. And if you want to refer back to any specific language, feel free to reference that code section, and we can pull up the specific change language, which is bolded in your packet. Specifically, we're amending 6.041203. That's the use matrix. It's basically a list of all the uses allowed in the business park zone. And in that list, we add medical marijuana facilities, and we add a C under BP1 and a C under BP2, which denotes a conditional use permit required. So that's the use matrix. Use matrix says only list those things that you can do there. We also will amend 6.0416 to say that the purpose and intent of that section is to allow for medical marijuana in accordance with state law. It doesn't supersede any of the existing restrictions. It adds a definition of medicinal cannabis because, again, medicinal is a separate subsection of cannabis and marijuana. It's not a blanket approval. And the medical cannabis must be delivered to a primary caregiver. It establishes, or section 6.04.1650 is amended to establish all those standards that we would consider the basic standards that any medical cannabis facility would be required to comply with, plus whatever conditions of approval might apply to that individual facility. So there'll be two sort of layers of review. And then section 6.04.1655 is amended to establish standards for the physical premises for which the operational plan will be conducted. And we can go over those in detail if you have any questions. And then 7.04 is just a statement is added to clarify that medical cannabis is allowed under state law, just as a subsection of what's detailed there under 7.4. Short timeline summary. This has been before City Council a couple of times as a moratorium. Once SB 1186 was adopted, City Council adopted a moratorium and then extended the moratorium 2 times. And we have the moratorium actually is in place until December of 2025. So we're getting this in early to you folks to get a recommendation and move it on to City Council after this. This zoning ordinance amendment is exempt from CEQA as it would not cause any significant impact on the environment. And there's also an EIR already prepared for the business park zone for whatever buildings may be constructed there. Staff's recommendation is to open and conduct a public hearing and accept comments, close the public hearing, and finally adopt Planning Commission Resolution 241052, recommending to City Council adopt zoning ordinance amendment 2402 and ordinance 24976, amending the Fillmore Municipal Code to allow non-storefront medical cannabis retailers in the BP zone and medicinal cannabis delivery as required by state law, and a finding of exemption from CEQA. I can answer any questions.
Go. Aaron?
I don't have any yet.
No question?
None yet.
One question I had is,
Yeah.
on the land use activity, child daycare centers, And that would be a discretionary permit? The D, that's what that D stands for?
Yes, that's a development permit. So you're looking at the overall matrix?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me find that real quick. Yeah, that's a development permit in that zone. So everything you see in that whole list
Oh, we got abbreviated list.
is pre-existing language.
Okay, okay.
And then the only addition is under S8.
Okay.
So category S, where it says other, item 8 right below hemp manufacturing, that's where that falls in. All those other uses that are listed, all the way up through category U, are already allowed by permit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, if there aren't any other questions, then we'll open the public hearing. Open public hearing, consideration of zoned ordinance amendment 24-02 and ordinance number 24-976, allowing non-storefront medicinal cannabis retailers in the BP zone and medicinal cannabis deliveries required by state law and finding of CEQA exemption. Okay, we don't have any speakers, though. I have no speaker cards for this. Does anybody want to speak on it that's out there? Okay. All right, well, I guess we'll close the public hearing. Okay, having no public speakers. Do we have any questions now? You go?
Yeah, I was reviewing 6.04.1650, where it says medical marijuana deliveries, and it specifies, how the deliveries are gonna happen. Was wondering, is there any way we could put any language in there to determine what hours that happens? Or would that be in a conditional use permit?
The hours of deliveries, so, is prohibited by state law. The state law says you can't have anything that would effectively prohibit delivery of medicinal marijuana, and it specifically identified hours of operation as one of those items.
Okay.
Yeah. And the deliveries can come from anywhere outside the city to any resident here that has a prescription.
The next section was 6.04.1655, where it talks about maintaining alarms, and I was wondering, can we add, or is it an option to add video surveillance? Because I see there's an alarm system, but there's no video surveillance.
That could be added as a subcomponent, yes.
Okay.
Often we give that to the police department to review and add as a condition of approval, but we could add that in as a standard requirement for all. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then a question that I have would be if this is adopted, would you said outside businesses or cannabis businesses could deliver into the city. Is the city going to require those businesses to register so the city knows where this is coming from, or?
Yeah. Well, to do the delivery in the city, you still would have to get a business license to deliver medical cannabis inside the city limits, and that's really about all that we'll have. We have some requirements here, but beyond that, it's very hard to regulate. They're unmarked cars, and so they will have to get a state license. So there's a lot of different qualifications that have to come into play once they apply and obtain that state license. But it's really outside the reaches of what the city can police.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So really, we have two options. Don't adopt and allow them to pretty much go anywhere in the city, or
Correct.
adopt in a designated zone.
That's right.
Yeah.
Philosophically, it's just ridiculous that the state of California continues to come down and dictate what cities must do. I mean, we can all see it here from planning. They can put in a 50-unit low-income housing project without any review from the planning commission. It just seems ridiculous that I wish they would stop and let the cities dictate what they can do. And I understand Cameron too, it's like, if we don't approve it, they can put it anywhere, so that would be the worst thing. If someone is going to, let's say they open a delivery service in Santa Paula and they're gonna deliver in here, is there a way we can work with the city of Santa Paula to make sure that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing? Or
We
is that?
We could try to, we couldn't try, we could do some sort of outreach to the city of Santa Paula to find out what level of delivery operations they have there. Right now, I don't believe Santa Paula has any.
Okay.
There's a couple in Oxnard. I think there's one in Ventura and a couple in Ojai from my research so far. But we could have a forum where all of the planning directors of the cities, discuss and see who has which operations and make sure that they have valid state licenses.
Okay. And do we get any revenue tax revenue from them delivering into the city?
We don't, not from deliveries. The state law does allow for a taxing of the facilities themselves. They're selling it retail.
Retail or delivery ones? I mean, if we have, let's say somebody comes in the BP1 zone and they're selling it here and delivering it here, we get a revenue off of that, correct?
There would be a tax revenue, a standard tax revenue on the retail sale of the medical marijuana, correct?
Okay.
I believe, unless it's exempt from tax because there's some medical bill. But there is an opportunity to perhaps research whether you could impose a special tax.
Well, that was gonna be my next
Yeah.
thing. Because I know from talking to people down in Port Hueneme, and they have retail,
Yeah.
that they're paying their tax bill with cash. And they had to build a separate room with security guards to accept the cash in. They were getting so much cash in.
At the facility itself?
At City Hall.
Oh, at City Hall?
At City Hall, when they
Okay.
were taking the tax dollars in, because, and I don't know if they could even have bank accounts still. They couldn't for a while. I don't know if that's changed at all.
Okay.
But it seems like the city should be reimbursed for any of those, if those are expenses we have to incur.
Yeah, we have reached out to other cities, and they haven't been able to put a number on what those types of facilities require in terms of city resources, like, say, policing,
Yeah.
or other damages they might cause to the city. It's relatively new, and amongst the cities, there hasn't really been a good assessment as to what those costs may or may not be. And our police chief was asked to research that as well, and he talked to all the other police chiefs in the surrounding cities, and nobody really has a number specific to this in terms of costs for policing. Some cities have tried some taxing, but it's not easy to determine whether they had a special tax on, like, the storefront type cannabis or whether it was the non-storefront. So we would have to investigate that a little bit more. But any attempts to do a special tax have not resulted in much revenue at all relative to what they had anticipated.
Well, I see to this, they say they only can deliver it to people that have medical marijuana cards.
Right.
How do they police that?
Well, I believe it may be issued by the state or a local county health department.
Well, they issue them, but how do you
Yeah.
know, how do we know they're delivering to 125 Main Street because they say they have a medical card?
We don't.
See, that's.
The plain answer is we don't. We don't have a way of tracking the vehicles and following them and knocking on doors. It's beyond our police power. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
One more question for you would be, is there a maximum number of vendors per se that can be in this area doing this? Or could it be 10 in one location? Is it maxed out at one at here? Or is there any guidelines for that in the language?
The code section that you have tonight is just the business park zone to open up a facility. There's nothing in the code right now that says you can only have one in the whole business park, or two, or three, because there is no real threshold that's been established as to how many you need based on the populace. But right now, it's just open to the business park, and if there is a high demand for these facilities to start showing up here, we could look at doing a moratorium at that time.
Okay.
Or you could request that we add more restrictive language to the code now that says, we'll only accept one in that zone, but I don't know if that runs into trouble with the state law because it was pick a zone. It wasn't saying you could limit the number.
In terms of the state law, limiting the number kind of falls into the same category of prohibitions that the
Okay.
hours of operation do. I think what you would be, if it did happen that these uses were starting to proliferate, I think what you'd be starting to look at is maybe distance requirements from other types of uses, maybe schools, churches, that type of thing. But as state law is worded now, the number cap, just saying like only one can locate would be a problem.
But there's nothing in the verbiage now that states cities can cap.
No, there isn't.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And the business park zone is far enough away from sensitive uses like residents or schools. That's why it was selected.
But we can make it that you could not have one every 1,000 feet? I mean, you couldn't be closer than that? I mean, could make those restrictions?
Apparently not.
You can't have a cap on the state law wording is the number of medicinal cannabis businesses authorized to deliver medicinal cannabis in the local jurisdiction. So you couldn't put a limit to say 3 of these businesses only can locate.
But can we put it, say that no, they can't be closer than 1,000 feet to each other?
Something like that, I don't think would be a problem. I mean, it's not a numerical limit.
So we put
It's not.
one every 5 miles.
I mean, you can't, but it also can't, if it's that transparent, then it's gonna be de
Oops.
facto a limit.
Okay. We can always try.
There is a fine balance there, yeah.
I know, I was just being hopeful.
But let's just say that one goes in and an application comes in down the road. Is there verbiage in there that says the city can deny it because there's already an existing business in that location?
I think that would run into the same issue with the numerical cap. It would be subject under these regulations to review under the conditional use permit process. So it would be a discretionary review, but the basis for denial can just be that we don't want this, or there's already one that's already existing.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, and just to take that one step further, if we had one in here, we would be evaluating it for a conditional use permit, and we would be assessing the impacts of that particular facility and that particular facility's operations, and bringing it before you for a recommendation for approval, where you could offer up more restrictions to it, or you may be able to find a basis for denial if there's a health and safety impact associated with it. Usually health and safety is something that can be used, or not used, but if that's discovered, that can be prohibitive. If there's one that's pre-existing that has a conditional use permit approved and they're up and operating, and a second one comes in, and we've seen the operations of the first one are causing a problem, that might be a basis for an analysis to consider whether we would approve a second one. And again, it would need to be legally sound, for sure.
And that would really have to be done on a
Yeah.
case-by-case basis, and the decision-making body adopting specific findings as to why the conditional use permit can't be approved.
In the business park area, child daycare centers are allowed. Can we limit the distance?
I believe we could. We could look at maybe
We said 500
500 feet.
from,
right now there are no,
Yeah, correct.
obviously, but yeah, if one does come first,
or second, they can't.
yeah,
use their center next to it.
Yeah, if a daycare comes in after a medical marijuana facility and they just want it there anyway, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we could look at that. We could look at adding in a distance restriction for sensitive uses, because that would be it. That might be we might be able to connect that logic for health and safety.
Yeah, it's the same
For
way you
daycare.
apply for like a
Yeah.
agricultural permit for pesticide.
Yeah. Okay. We'll, that's something we can look at and research and add to this, if that's part of your motion.
Well, I definitely think that should be part of the motion, that a distance from a child. That's why when I
Okay.
was bringing
Yes,
up
thank
that,
you.
when I was bringing up that issue with childcare, that's what I
Yeah.
was trying to get at, was
Thank
like,
you.
okay, they could have one next door to a child
I follow you.
daycare
Yeah,
center?
okay.
So, okay.
I would caution that it's something we can look at, but I would caution, depending on how much space there is, that these distances can go, to bring up the example you brought up earlier, it couldn't have the effect of precluding the use altogether. If it was gonna be located within 1,000 feet, and if you drew a circle around that, then none of the uses would be allowed. I think that would be a problem. It would have to be able to look, but these are the types of things that we can look at in coming up with a reasonable distance restriction and that type of use.
Or not in the same structure, or sharing the same facilities, parking lots, and so maybe we can look at something like that.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay, do we have a motion? Oh.
One more, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I was trying to go through real quick. Is there like a size limit to, since this is delivery only, is there a size limit to what could be stored on property?
No, there isn't. I think that may be considered prohibitive.
Yeah, one of the categories that cannot be restricted is the types or quantities of medicinal cannabis authorized to be sold by delivery.
Okay. All right, that'll be it for me. Thank you.
All right. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Okay, but do we want to put,
Just, do we want to discuss before we make a motion?
well, you want to, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's-
No, let's go ahead and discuss it. Here we go.
So what I'm hearing is the video surveillance added to the alarm, and the, drew a blank. Might be someplace.
Yeah, I'd say reasonable distance, I think that's
Reasonable distance
appropriate
from-
language.
Can you define reasonableness? Because that's going to get a little,
Yeah.
Well, I think the city needs to look into what's allowed. That's why I left it. open.
okay. And
I
then
would
you're
say
a recommending
500.
body, and we can make that recommendation to the city council and try to define that further at city council.
Yeah.
Is that okay,
Yeah?
Mike?
So is this, it depends on what, if the idea is that the planning commission is going to make a recommendation on this ordinance now, we should get some maybe more specific direction in terms of the type of distance and specific use, and then can sort of make tweaks before the recommendation is made to city council based on that planning commission direction. Or alternatively, the item could be continued to a future public hearing and then come back and consider the item again. So there's sort of two different approaches. With the first approach, what we would want to be doing is sort of almost writing in the specific recommendations that the planning commission is going to make to the ordinance. So staff has a really clear idea of the recommendation that's to be made to city council. Or if it's just a more general direction to city staff, then the item would be continued to a future meeting and coming back with an ordinance that's been revised based on that planning commission direction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would recommend 500 feet from any sensitive facilities, examples given, child daycare centers.
What about the park? Do we consider that sensitive use? Children playing games there? and-
I would say yes.
And the church?
Church.
Yeah.
I would be a little more comfortable with like 1,000 feet.
The one thing I would caution us, again, this is state law, so that we, the state's coming down saying, the cities have to do this, or if we don't do it, it's allowed in the entire city, right? So, my recommendation is we would want this, to be limited to the business part. I don't want us to be too restrictive, and then the state would look at that and say, you really aren't meeting the requirements, and then they're gonna say, it's gonna go anywhere because you're not meeting the state requirements. So I just want to make sure we're being careful.
Well, should we
I'm supporting
should we-
that it's in that business park, but I
That'd
just
be
don't want
worth
us to be
closing
too
and-
restrictive.
And continuing in the future,
Once we get some of these things answered, questions
kind of look into it.
to investigate. Now, there's restrictions from a bar being too close to schools and stuff, correct?
Correct.
So, I mean, it's not out of the ordinary to take something like this and make restrictions by,
Yeah.
right?
Skimming this list, that was very astute to come up with the childcare thing. That's the one that, looking through the entire list, that I could see as being sensitive. The others don't appear to be too sensitive to something like this.
And what's the restriction between a bar being next to a school? How far?
I want to say it's 1,000 feet.
Kevin, you should know that off the top of your head.
There are different types of licenses.
I'm sorry?
There are different types of alcohol licenses.
No, I know, but I'm saying a full bar because a beer and wine, it has less restrictions than a full bar.
500 feet.
Okay. So us making it 500 feet would be consistent with what we do on alcohol, right? Okay.
I'm okay with adding the restriction of 500 feet for child daycare centers. Leaving it to that.
So what happens when there is no child daycare and we have 1, 2, 3 pop up? I guess we have to be okay with that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to throw that up.
But we can't, because we can't restrict how many can be into that park, in the business park?
Correct.
But couldn't we come up with they have to be some distance, if we're saying 500, so we're not,
If a childcare is in place. Once it is in place, then I think that the diameter
Right.
goes into effect.
but I'm saying if we had a dispensary in there, a delivery place comes in there, can we make it that they can be 500 feet apart? Or does it really,
Oh, from
is
each
that being
other?
restrictive, huh?
500 feet from each other?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think so. And I recall in looking either at examples of other cities that have done it, that there were some types of distance restrictions. The ones that I recall were sort of like that daycare example that's been discussed, like 300 feet, I forget the exact distance. I don't recall seeing distances from that.
Existing facilities?
Correct. It's possible that would be a permitted type, if they're still allowed to locate in that zone, it's not restricting the overall number, that would be a permissible type of distance restriction.
Could we say something like 500 feet from another delivery retail center unless there's a child daycare? Because until child daycare comes in place, it really doesn't trigger the distance.
Oh, but we're saying in between two different businesses, they have
That's
to
what,
be
that's what I'm saying,
500
yeah,
feet.
500 feet from a business.
Yeah, from each one of them, yeah.
Maybe the best thing we could do for now is just continue it and get more information
so.
as far as what other cities have done. And that way we kind of have more solid information and
I
before we
agree,
stick our foots out there.
yeah,
That's my opinion.
yeah, I would.
And you said the state law takes effect January?
2025.
It takes effect January 2025, but
2025, okay.
January 2025. We have a moratorium in place until December 2025.
So we have some time.
Just about a year. Okay, everybody good with that?
Yeah. I'm good.
Okay, so what are the things we're looking at is to require video camera systems Now, would those be monitored by the police department?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then also, what would be the distance that we can do from a day's care center and the distance from competing deliveries?
Okay.
Okay. All right, I think we'll do that and we'll bring it back then.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So I think what we could do procedurally at this point is have a motion to continue. Do you think this could be brought back at the next planning commission meeting, Brian?
I think so.
I think these issues are pretty straightforward
Yeah.
and would be the pretty discrete issues and
Yeah.
ones we could look at quickly, relatively. So could come back with that information, potentially an updated, or if it aligns with state law, potentially some recommendations to the ordinance text updated based on that direction. So what the motion would be to continue to a date certain, if we're looking at the November planning commission, it could be to
Do
the
we want to
next-
specify the November planning commission or just do it?
To the next.
The difference procedurally is that if it's not continued to a date certain, it would have to be renoticed.
Oh, okay.
So it would be beneficial to, I think, to have a specific date
Okay,
to come.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we continue this particular topic to our November 2024 Planning Commission meeting.
okay.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll continue it.
So that's to the November 20th planning commission meeting, it looks
Right.
like.
Okay, next public hearing is for the second public hearing, consideration modification number 4 to development permit 18-02, conditional use permit 18-02, and lot merger 18. I thought the lot merger was not part of it.
The lot merger is part of it.
Oh, okay.
Chair, due to the project being located across from El Dorado Mobile Estates, where I live, and own a unit, I will have to recuse myself from the discussion on this item based on financial asset near the project.
Okay. Okay, so we'll open the public hearing. I have 3 cards here. The first one is Monty Balyan. Oh, do we do public, or you want to make your presentation first? Yeah.
Well, unless you don't want to hear it, that's fine.
Yeah. We'll do-
You could probably give it. You guys.
Sorry,
all know
Brian,
this.
go ahead.
You guys all know this project. Let's just skip that. Okay. Thank you, Chair and Planning Commission and City of Fillmore. This is not the medical marijuana project. This is the Highway 126 project. Let's see. Looks like they updated our system today, and it looks like I'm getting a lot of pop-ups. Okay, this is a continuance from the September 18th hearing. Development permit 1802, conditional use permit 1802, lot merger 1802, and this is again modification number 4. The location, as you know, as you can see, is on the east side of town, just north of State Route 126. Across the street is the El Dorado Mobile Home Park. It's also the manufacturing industrial zone where there are various commercial businesses and RV storage. To the north are the hillsides and the railroad tracks. It's in the commercial highway zone. That's the pink. Commercial highway zone is intended for professional office, retail, service, and tourist-oriented businesses and activities. Various retail uses and RV sales are permitted in the CH zone. And this project, these entitlements approved in 2019 were based on having a RV dealership with sales and separate retail uses, and various other uses were defined as part of the project at that time. RV storage by itself, or RV storage, is simply not a permitted use in the commercial highway zone. As mentioned, It was approved originally in January 16, 2019. I believe the application was made in 2018. But in any case, it made its way to the Planning Commission rather rapidly and was approved, but it wasn't constructed. The applicant subsequently came in with a modification to remove buildings, and then there was a series of modifications, applications that were made by the applicant, not by city staff. We were expecting it to be constructed in 19, but it's undergone a lot of administrative reviews and changes over time and expirations that have been extended. So this is a long list of administrative actions that have occurred over the years, and it's under construction at the moment, and we're still making modifications. The last hearing was on September 18. That was modification 4. This was the original project. Because there's been incremental changes all along, it's always important that we look at the project as it was originally approved. Because when you just look at incremental changes, it looks like it's not a big change. But we like to look at the whole project history so that you get a comprehensive review of the project itself. This was the originally approved project, and the buildings are denoted with letters. This was what it looked like at the time, so this is what was presented by the applicant at that time. You can see the numerous buildings there. On the right-hand side, that would be what we're calling Building A, and the other building in the front there is called Building B. Building C is this structure right here, if you can see my mouse. So those are the 3 remaining buildings. At that time, there was a description in the project, and there's a description on the plans that were approved even in modification 1 that called out various uses, one of which was a restaurant as fulfilling the retail component, which was a separate from RV sales. There was RV sales, and then there was a host of other things that were to be included. And the architecture was really designed to be a gateway to the city. But this is what it kind of looks like with all those buildings removed and with Building A removed. You would just have that location of Building B and Building C. And this was just another angle where you can see the project coming in if you're westbound. You can see that there was a lot of attention to detail given at that time, knowing that this was an entrance to the city. And that Building A, that tall one there with that tower feature, is kind of gives the architectural appeal of you've arrived and the lights are on and people are home here in this town. And so that was the character of it when it was approved in January 2019. And then in that same year, once the Planning Commission approved it, the applicant came in and removed all of those buildings, and then Mod 4 removes Building A. Mod 1 is the baseline physical features of the project today, where Building A and B and C are remaining in play. Building B was optional because Building B was a showroom. The showroom was to support RV sales, separate from any sort of retail use, other additional retail use. There's 367 RV storage spaces, and there's 41 RV sales spaces. We don't quite know where this lands in terms of employees. So through Mod 3, this is what we're looking at. You've got the 3 buildings that are in play. Building B is optional, that's the showroom. It's not called out in the plans as a retail building, it's called out as a showroom. Building A is the one that contains a floor plan that shows retail or some other vendor. And we can look more closely at the floor plans if you'd like. This is the RV storage space of the project. Remember, RV storage is not allowed use, not an allowed use in the commercial highway zone. It's for retail. The commercial area, I just eyeballed it and I measured it on my computer. So I'm saying it's roughly 25% of the site is sort of that lower half where you have RVs parking for storage and you have drives and you have parking and other just, paved areas, and then a smaller component of that are the actual structures. Under Mod 4, they would swap A and B. Well, Mod 4 would basically make it so B is constructed and A is optional. But remember, we had A as required because it was a separate retail from a showroom. And so they're proposing to make B the showroom still, and A would go away. And this was what the applicant submitted, so they changed the name of Building B to Retail Sales and Vendor, but the floor plan still is a closer match to what Building B is as a showroom and offices. When we look at the project as a whole, again, we want to see the whole picture. The original project approved by the Planning Commission in January 2019 had 30,746 square feet of total buildings A through G. And then in that same year, they came in for modification 1, and the total building square footage amongst A, B, and C was reduced to 16,036, with B being optional. And under proposed modification 4, the total maximum square footage would again be reduced down to 13,704. And if building A is optional, you can put it in the bank that it won't be constructed. So really what we're talking about is 9,452 square feet of building space as compared to the original 30,700 plus square feet of building space. So you have a total reduction of over 69% in building floor space that's occurred. At the Planning Commission direction in September 18, we've worked with the applicant to meet what the direction was, and the applicant, since the city staff doesn't design projects and don't know what works in the marketplace for a particular developer, we don't know what their business model is, we don't know what their pro forma is, we don't know how much investment they have to make. We let them tell us what they need, and we help them fit it into the codes. These were the directions given to us by the Planning Commission. It was to provide assurance that we get retail in Building A in order to make a finding that it's consistent with the commercial highway zone. You also asked that the applicant increase the landscape coverage to get closer to the 12% that's required under the Ventura Street design guidelines. And third, you asked that they provide potential solutions to the current existing problem, or potential for truck parking and food vendors on the frontage along Highway 126, which is currently designed to be a dirt space, basically, between the sidewalk and the Caltrans asphalt. I believe it's 15 feet of dirt, maybe 20 feet, 18 feet of dirt. And then as a technical matter, staff has also been asking since the original incompleteness letter for Mod 4 for an updated parking tabulation so that we can track where this project has moved, because parking identifies specific uses and parking ratios that goes with those specific uses. And that's detailed in the conditions of approval today. But the architectural plans, we want the architect or the applicant to help us track how the parking ratios have changed, because the uses have become more ambiguous than they used to be. So we want to see what those parking numbers are and where the assigned parking would go to each one of those uses or buildings. The applicant's response was basically that as written, they believe that it's covered, that the request for assurances for Building A was covered in the existing conditions. And they offered some language to help try to bolster that, which is here in quotes: if Building A is constructed, the use of that building shall be for retail purposes, and the use must be approved by the Planning Commission. So that's not really where you want to be when you're approving an entitlement. It was said at the conclusion of the last hearing, I believe Chair said we don't want to approve elements of this that cause the applicant to have to come back later for another modification. So this is asking for a future modification. And it's also saying if we do it, we'll come back for a modification. That's not where you want to be when you're approving an entitlement. So we didn't feel that met the requirement. We did discuss other possible mechanisms with the applicant, such as maybe limiting the amount of RV storage space to some percentage, plus bonding or some other financial mechanism. And that wasn't acceptable. Plus, upon further research, bonding on private property improvements is really not a good legal approach or a good legal precedent either. And then we asked, can you give us more information on some of the things that were mentioned, such as a car wash? It was mentioned that was extensively researched, but we don't have any information as far as what that space looks like. So we might ascertain that maybe the space of a car wash would cut into the RV storage spaces. So we've been unable to get any real specific information on a retail use that we could evaluate to see if it makes the findings of the entitlements as originally approved, or that if it's consistent with this commercial highway zone. So there was just too many unknowns still. The second item was an increase in landscape to meet the 12% coverage, or at least get closer. And they offered a creative solution to provide ground cover in the drainage swell at the front of the property. And they also offered to take ownership of a water meter on a public park, a pocket park that's immediately to the west of the project. But upon further research, realized that it's also very legally challenging to have a private property take over a public watering effort and come up with those kinds of agreements and the amount of conflict that could occur in the future if it's not properly maintained. And then the ground cover in the drainage swale in the front, the proposal was to add that area to meet some of the percentage requirements on site. But for purposes of entitlement, it's really off-site because that's an area that's dedicated to the city. So again, it falls under using a public area to meet the private property landscape coverage. And that's also a poor precedent that we couldn't proceed with and have that option for every project that comes down the pipeline. Because it's not just this project. We have to think about how that's handled elsewhere. And if other applicants could use the city properties to meet landscaping, because the city would potentially use that property for something in the future, such as road widening. And then that also was considered as a two-part solution, both in landscape coverage and to potentially prohibit the truck parking and food vendors along the highway, which is also a creative solution. But we would want to see what that vegetation would look like, and it would have to be woody or robust enough to actually prevent cars from driving there. But it wouldn't be counted toward the landscape coverage on site. And then another important point is that the landscaping couldn't significantly reduce the hydraulic runoff function of the swale. Often when you put vegetation in drainage features, it reduces the water capacity of that drainage feature and can cause some flooding. So it would need to be coupled with an engineering analysis. So we don't have enough information on that front either. So we didn't get a landscape plan. We got a concept, but we didn't get a landscape plan that actually showed what that vegetation is. And we didn't get the hydrology analysis to show that it wouldn't interfere with the drainage capacity. So again, we felt this one did not quite get there in terms of meeting the commission's direction for landscape coverage. And then this came up in item 2, but the main solution to the truck parking and vendors along the highway is to have no parking signs, which to us seems like the most viable option. We would just need a plan that shows what those signs will look like and where that spacing would be and where specifically they would be located. Presumably, they would be on the city land dedication area, so we would have much more of the authority to approve it, but we would still consult Caltrans a bit on how the functionality of that no parking would work. But that did seem like a viable option. We just didn't get a plan. This modification is part of the original environmental consideration. There isn't a significant change in the project to change the environmental findings. So we're not asking for a new CEQA document or a new review of environmental impact report or I should say the mitigated negative declaration. Staff's recommendation is to receive this staff report, open the public hearing, receive testimony, and close the public hearing. Adopt resolution 241053, denying modification number 4 to development permit 1802, conditional use permit 1802, and lot merger 1802. Alternatively, the Planning Commission could consider the following: provide staff further comments and direction. I'm here to answer any questions.
Cameron, do you have any questions?
I feel just from the surface that there seems like a lot of incomplete items here that are brought forward. Does the city feel this is the applicant needs more time to work with the city on this, or is it at a?
Well, we held the special hearing. We originally figured this wasn't going to come back until November because we know that it takes a lot of work and review. But the applicant's representative wanted it to be October. So we made this as a special hearing, and we had a phone call and asked them to submit all of the things we would need to review this. And we've got bits and pieces of it, but not everything.
One of the challenges too is the consistency with the zoning and that being reduced based on building size and type of use that's proposed.
And we did ask for, at the last hearing, there was a lot of discussion from the applicant about what's going to go in those buildings. For example, building C, he said, was for services, and he said, I didn't know what services are. Well, I didn't know what services are for RVs, but he said it's for step ladders. And then other descriptions were given. They gave a written description that it's various other things that they would fix on RVs. So we have a much more robust description of what would go into building C. Building C has already been approved. It's under construction. And then they gave a further description as to what would go into building B, which I believe still didn't meet the original intent of retail. It was to provide brochures and things to go along with the showroom.
There's a lot of changes that have occurred that this project's just getting smaller and smaller. When the landscape came back and it was discussed ground cover on dirt, doesn't really make sense, but was there any discussion of what kind of ground cover this would be, or was it just a blanket like ground cover? Yeah,
it was just noted as ground cover, and we said, well, submit what vegetation we're talking about, what kind of landscape plan are we talking about? Because we just had a concept. So that's a concept we would explore further.
Okay, and then also it stated that mod 4 is at 8.2% of the 12% landscape. Is the 8.2 including that frontage landscape?
No.
Okay.
The 8.2 came about predominantly because the retaining wall that you've seen under construction has moved. They obtained a grading permit from us to grade the site which included grading into the slope on VCTC's property. And then after they got out there and started grading, VCTC called and asked about it, and then they needed to review those plans. For about a 6-month period of time, the applicant worked with VCTC to have those plans reviewed and approved by VCTC because it was affecting their property. And VCTC, based on their geological and engineering review, determined the wall had to move 5 feet to the south based on structural engineering. It moved 5 feet to the south, which opened up a portion at top over the whole length of the project is a significant, even though it's a narrow strip got added, it's a significant number that got up to 8.2% under Mod 4 with that wall change.
Okay, and then
Is
if I'm understanding correctly, the askings of item, or number 1, we still have no assurances, and then for 2, we don't know what landscape is, and 3, we have a potential solution, we just don't know what is gonna be done with it.
Correct, we need a signed plan.
Correct.
Yeah.
So cities receive no pictures or hand drawings of anything of what is ideal or in the process?
No, we have not. It's been proposed in concept, which we've said, well, we like that concept. Let's go with that. Submit something that we can review.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's all for me.
Cameron? Okay.
Nothing right now.
Moving this building, one building, swapping the buildings out, it seems like it's opened the whole can of worms as far as bringing this whole thing back, right? I mean, if the applicant didn't ask for this Mod 4, he would be going and just finishing the project with one building, two buildings, C, which is already almost, it looks like it's completed, I don't know if it's completed completely, and he'd build the other building, and we wouldn't be here talking about this, correct?
Correct.
Brian, right?
That's correct.
Okay. The one thing about making him responsible for people not parking in front, I just don't think that's a legitimate thing for the city to mandate. If you put up no parking signs, that should be sufficient. If they're doing something illegal, it's not up to the business owner, I think, to regulate people's activities. And it's interesting. I think we asked this the last time, that by doing this Mod 4, it opened the whole thing back up. Because before we were okay with 7.2% landscaping, now it's 8.2%, but now we're asking to get closer to 12. Correct?
Yeah, well, the other thing that we mentioned, the wall, the Mod 4 does pick up the relocation of the wall, which has already been constructed. So they've already were able to obtain permits to construct the wall without having the Mod 4 entitlement approved. So we're ended up in this tricky scenario where that's tied up in this. So we might have to consider what components, maybe they'd have to reapply for Mod 5 with just those components that are necessary, like the wall, for example, and then get the 8.2 square feet of landscaping out of that.
But if he goes to Mod 5, let's say we denied 4.
Yeah.
And then he says, well, then the city says, well, you're out of compliance with this wall. So we have to go to Mod 5. Does that open the whole project up again?
Technically, it does, but often, we could consider whether we would just look at those changes that are being proposed. So if he were to just propose a change in the wall with the increase in the landscaping, we'd have to talk with the legal department and with Kevin to see if we're capable of confining our review just to that component.
The challenge with this particular modification was the consistency with the underlying zoning, and that there being reductions of the types of uses that are allowed in that zoning. So that was the particular challenge in maintaining that finding. And essentially, we thought that if there were any further reductions, that it wasn't plausible to make that consistency finding. It seemed the wall's not getting into the use issue, so it might be a simpler, I don't know the details on that, but it could be a simpler consideration than these use swaps.
Because before Mod 4, there was going to be 3 buildings built because one was still labeled as optional, correct? Right, Kevin? I mean,
Yes.
before Mod 4, there was only
B
going to
was-
be mandatorily 3 buildings.
A was mandatory, and the reason A was mandatory is because it contained a separate retail component from RV sales. RV sales was already baked in, and then building B was a showroom, which was accessory to the RV sales. So whether you have a showroom or not, you still get the RV sales, but building A was a different animal. So,
But if building A, I mean, we forget the whole Mod 4. Building A,
Yeah.
could it have been a retail selling RV accessories? Would that have fallen under retail?
possibly, we have to look at, I'm trying to open the floor plan for A right now, and I'm getting this pop up. I don't know why I'm getting this pop up. It would be, it'd be ideal to have a robust description of what's actually going to go into building A so we can answer that more fully. But if they were actually had like sort of a store vendor that was selling things, that wasn't just, here's a brochure of something you know, buy online or ship in, I don't know. We'd have to determine whether that's considered retail.
You can take a minute, Brian, so you can
Yeah.
deal with the, please just give Brian a minute or two so we can.
No, he has to have this memorized. Come on, Brian.
I think they came
Well-
in and updated our system today, and I'm getting this.
Because the description that we have before us on Building B, which used to be Building A, or was it A?
Yeah. The issue.
I'm getting messed up
A
here.
was optional.
A was optional, so the sales and retail building consists of RV sales and showroom. Well, I mean, if you just made it retail of all the supplies that RVs need, doesn't that constitute retail?
I think pull up once you see the diagram of building A as it's approved is helpful in showing how
I
it's
think-
sort of distinct.
Yeah, I think a lot of the confusion here is that usually when developers get an entitlement, they know what they're going to do. And we are 8 years into this, and it's still ambiguous.
I think to Gary's point, I guess, was it required from the beginning that it needed to be defined what retail in the built building or the optional building, or I guess building?
I think Brian said that it was, at one time, first going, we said
Yeah.
restaurant.
All we had, in the description on the architectural drawings, it lists like a restaurant and other uses. And that's been in the project description until lately. And then the other thing we have to go on is Building A has a floor plan, which you can't see because it's being blocked by this thing.
Brian, can you not get rid of it? I just think it's, if we could maybe just give him see if he can address this in a couple of minutes.
Try your task manager, Brian, and see if it shows up in your task manager, and you may be able to close that window. Control Alt Delete in your task, bring up your task manager. Just get out of the task manager. And is there updates or something listed there that you can still close?
Call this. Okay, maybe that's gonna do it.
Can we make a recommendation that they make adjustments to computer systems on days that we're not going to have meetings?
Okay.
You also might be able to download the PDF file from a prior planning commission meeting if you can use a browser. Sorry for the pause.
Okay, here
I
we
just
go.
didn't want him having to do the.
Okay, so this is Building A as it was approved. And so if this is what the applicant would like to do in Building A and move it to where B is located, the answer, Gary, is yes. We don't know, we don't know what retail is going to be, if it's brochures of what RV parts you can buy considered retail.
We can speak to that.
Well,
We'd
it
have
could
to-
be-
we'd have to get more information.
Well, it could be more, I mean, camping retail, they could have things in there more than just stuff needed for an RV, for going out with an RV. I mean, they could sell maybe tents and accessory items for camping.
Yeah, possibly.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that gives us the retail, then, correct? Would that,
Yes, if we can get a description of that on a floor plan like this, then we may be able to make that finding, that's retail.
okay, so that building would be next to building C, correct? Okay.
I
so-
think that's what they're that's what they're proposing. They've said they will flop A and B.
Right.
Yeah.
So if that becomes, and they don't have RVs parked inside, they just have them outside like most RV stores I've been to, then that becomes the retail. And then they also have retail in that they'll be selling RVs, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That's right.
So I'm not so worried about him coming and building, I'll get A, B, and C's mixed up, but building A at the corner on the entrance, because to me then, if that goes through, and I know it's listed as optional,
Okay.
correct? The one
B is
moving-
optional, yeah.
So it would be optional. I can't imagine somebody that is doing business, has somebody come in and says, hey, this is a great location, I'd like to put something here that's, compatible, a retailer. Why a landlord would not say, absolutely, we'll build it and you're going to lease it from me for X number of years? I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So I really don't have an issue with the flipping of the buildings and designating that as retail.
Okay. The floor plan that they've submitted for this is this one.
Okay?
We hope you'll give us a chance to explain why it was.
There's going to be an opportunity for an applicant presentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's all the other questions I have right now for you.
Okay.
Do you have any questions? Not at this time. Okay. Any no other questions? Nobody? Okay. Now that you got it back up, we'll.
Right.
Okay, so now we're going to hear from the applicant or public hearing?
There's applicant, if they have a presentation to make, and then after the applicant presentation is concluded, open it to public
Okay.
comment.
Okay, Don?
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, staff. My name's Don Duncan. I think you remember we were together about a month ago, okay? Nobody knows this project better than me, nobody. And I'm here tonight, I'm going to educate you on the project, and I'm going to tell you what I know, not what I think. Nobody knows more about this project than me. I was the brainchild behind it, all right? And I had a partner at one time who's passed away. Okay. I want to start by just reminding you, I have 4 facilities right now. I have a storage lot, 12 acres, same size as this in Simi Valley, where I sell, store, and service RVs. I have a small lot on A Street up in Fillmore, about 3.5 acres, where I just store RVs. Okay? I used to have another facility in Moore Park, and I have a rental business, 101 RV Rentals, up in Santa Barbara, where we rent trailers and deliver them. We have a 10-year contract with the state parks. We're the only company that can deliver trailers for people to use. I know this business inside and out. I've been doing it for 14 years. And I'm going to start by telling you what you just heard is inaccurate, grossly inaccurate, and misleading. And I'm going to straighten it out for everybody. I'm here to educate the commissioners so you know the real story and the correct story. For example, in this timeline that Brian talked about, all right, he left 3 very, very important things out. One is he never mentioned COVID and the city being shut down for a year. He didn't mention that my partner died of cancer, and it took me 1.5 years to get through all the probate and to get the property back to where anybody could do anything with it. It was stuck in limbo for 1.5 years. So between COVID and my partner dying, I lost 2.5 years on this project. After 2.5 years, and I'll be the first one to tell you that although I'm the brainchild, my partner was the money guy. He had a lot of money. That's why when we first sat down with the planning department and I said, we need an office building and a showroom and retail building, and we need a service building, my partner said, why don't we do 2 of each? I looked at him, he's the money guy. I said, if you want 2, we can put 2. Yeah, let's do 2. All right. That original project that we hope to build in 2019 with all the other buildings that were for boat storage. Like people are buying $200,000 boats now and they want to put them in a garage. So we put like 20 of those out there. And then we put 5 big 50-foot deep buildings where if you had $1 million RV or one of those guys, you could park it inside. That original budget in 2019 to build all 7 buildings and complete the lot was $8.5 million. After COVID, after 1.5 years waiting for me to take the project back from my partner, I came back to the planning department and they approved, because I said, I don't need all that stuff. I need a service building and I need a sales showroom retail building. Okay? And I'd like to have an option to do more retail up front. So we agreed, and it approved, they gave me approval to build Building A at the entrance, make Building B, Building A and B were identical. They were always the same, they're flip-flopped is all they are. We could do the same thing in both of them. So we had A here, about 100 yards down is B, that's how close they are. And right next to B is C, the service building that's out there already. I came back and they said, okay, let's do A and C and make B optional. And that was it. We were off to the races. We started to get back on track. I came in, and the reason we're here tonight with Mod 4, and there's a gentleman sitting back here in the room that has been chasing me for 7 years. He calls me every month. He's a businessman. He's a developer. He does C-stores. He does gas stations, and he does car washes. Originally talked to Kevin and the city about doing a C-store and a gas station out there, and it didn't fly because it's not on a 4-way intersection. You have to be on a 4-way intersection. So I called Modi and I said, we can't do that, sorry. He said, I'll do a car wash. I said, okay, sit tight. I got some work to do first, but if you want to, we can get it done, I think, but not right now, all right? So I started the project. We built Building C, and Brian says in here we were allowed to build it. We were forced to build it, okay? We weren't allowed. We were forced. I had a deadline that I had to get that building built or they were going to shut down the project. That's the truth, okay? Otherwise, that building wouldn't be the first thing I ever built on that lot. The sequencing of a development project should be done by the developer, guys. It shouldn't be done by the city. Once you approve it, then you don't tell people how to do it, okay? So that's inaccurate. Now, reason, and I told you this a month ago, Why I came back is because by taking the same building that's approved, B, A, and making that location optional retail and constructing the optional building B, which will do the exact same thing and has always been designed to do the exact same thing as A. Remember, my rich partner said, let's do 2 of them. There was never a restaurant, ever. You can't put a restaurant in that building with all that other stuff. We talked about maybe doing a sandwich shop at some point if it made sense. Never a restaurant. That's inaccurate. That's misleading. Never. Okay? I came back in here before you because I see an opportunity to have my sales, my service, and my storage complemented by what we all think right now is a great idea, to have one of those drive-through car washes. But you got to put it right inside the entrance. You don't want it, you can't put it in between the sales and service building. Now, I'm going to stop for a second. Here's a write-up I did for Brian. Highway 126 RV will sell, service, and store RVs. This will be a premier RV facility like no other in the area. What is most unique about our business is, along with sales and service, which many dealerships have, sales and service, we're going to have storage. Nobody else has that. Nobody. And it's for all the reasons Brian said, okay? You're either usually in industrial with storage or in commercial with sales and service. They don't go together. But when Kevin came to me 8 years ago and said, we've got this lot that's problematic, we would allow you to do storage on it, because I'd been coming to him for 6 years looking for property in Fillmore. He said, if you'll do retail out front. I said, great, I'll do retail. I'll do sales and I'll do service. I'll sell RVs and RV parts, and I'll store RVs. And every city has a huge problem with RV storage right now. They don't have enough. There's not enough anywhere. Between Santa Barbara and San Diego, every lot's full. Okay, so this is a flagship facility because nobody else has it. Nobody's going to have storage, sales, and service. Nobody. Camping World doesn't have storage. No, they have sales and service. All right, so that's what's unique about this. Okay, that means that customers who can store in the back just make a phone call. They leave keys. We do it on See Me Now. We go grab their RV. We bring it to the service building. We fix it. We sell them stuff, and we put it back. And they don't have to take a day off work, drive down to Orange County where they bought their RV, and get it serviced maybe in a day. It's a miserable experience if you've ever had an RV and had to go down there. So this is what's unique. Now, Building C, the service building, has 6 roll-up doors, making it easy to drive all the way through in an RV. That building can be locked up at night, so if we start a big job, we don't have to finish it the same day. On my Simi Valley lot, I do all the work outside. Every day, I have to close up everything, to make it safe. So I've always wanted to build a facility like this with the big roll-up doors in the building so I could take on, bigger, longer jobs, and now we have it. RV service focuses on the house side of the RV. I told you this last month. In other words, not the engine, not the transmission. Of course, trailers don't have those, but motorhomes do. We focus on the house side. It's the step motors. It's the vent covers. It's the refrigerator. It's the water pump. It's all the electronics. It's all the house side of the RV. We don't touch anything like engines and transmissions, and they go back to a car dealership for that. They go to Mercedes or they go to Ford. But RV is it's pretty simple stuff, really. People, like he said, ladders. People break ladders. We put a new ladder on for them. Okay? People hit something and crack a taillight. We put a new taillight. People want a camera so they can see the back. When they back up, we put that on. We do solar installs every week. Every RV should have solar, and all of them are sold without it, so we do that. Okay, we will not be working on engines, transmission, suspension. We will work on roof repair, skylights, vent covers, plumbing, handles, catches, latches, curtains, blinds, hardware, doorknobs, locks, doors, ladders, racks, levelers, mattresses, moldings, trim, window frames, hardware, electrical problems, lights, awnings, step motors, toilets, sinks and faucets, showers, stoves, ovens, refrigerators, microwave replacement, water pumps, water connections, ventilation and fan, water heaters, furnaces, roof coatings, backup cameras, slide-out repairs, holding tanks, lights, batteries, solar panels, inverters, converters, and more. That's all the RV stuff. That's what we're going to do there. Now, building B, which we want to build and make A optional, is the same as A. We're going to do the same stuff, and whether we do it in A or in B, it's the same stuff. They were designed the same way with big roll-up doors. The sales and retail building will consist of offices, so we can bring somebody and talk to them that want to buy an RV. We can pull one or two RVs. We could actually pull 4 in, but we'll probably pull 1 or 2 RVs in the showroom. That's just for on rainy days or hot summers. If people want to come in a more comfortable area, a lot of dealerships have an indoor showroom, just like Bunnan Chevrolet has a small indoor showroom. We will have displays, catalogs, we'll sell parts, we'll offer retail customers things that they use all the time, like dump hoses and water hoses and floor mats and patio rugs and camping chairs and batteries and solar panel kits they can take and do themselves, wheel chocks, hitch locks, sanitizers, LED rope lighting, RV hardware, locks, bike racks, RV ladders, safety steps, roof repair products, battery boxes, surge protectors, inverters, converters, vent covers, LED lighting, cutoff switches, power cords, power cord adapters, propane hoses, coolers, pumps, faucets, brake controllers, and more. How do I know all that? I've been doing it for 14 years, all right? Outside on pavement. Now I've got a building to do it in. So I'm here. We're talking about a bunch of history. We're talking about landscaping that was already approved at 7.2%. Already approved. Now, I took Dave Rollins over to my lot in Simi Valley when landscaping was a hot button. And I said, Dave, now picture this, guys. You know what that lot looks like that. The only thing you can see is the front. Once those fences go up and all those RV goes in, if you put a plant somewhere in the back of that storage area, all it is a mistake. And I learned that on my Simi Valley lot. All my planters have gravel in them now. You don't want trees, you don't want plants, it's just litters the lot, dirties the RVs. My Simi Valley lot is beautiful along the frontage. This one will be too, and that's what you want to do. Now, there's only so much frontage there. So I took Dave over and I said, Dave, look what I did in the front of this. He was like dumbfounded. He was like, I had no idea it could look this nice. And then I took him and I drove him around the storage lot and I said, you see these planters that don't have any trees or plants in them anymore? They got sprinklers, that they don't use them. It's because it didn't make sense. We learned the hard way. We put some plants in and leaves go down, they get on top of the RVs, they blow all, it's just not what you want, where you want your plants. Now, when you're sitting in this room, it might sound like a good idea. Boy, let's have some planters, and it sounded like a good idea to me when I built the first one, but I learned. So when I came over here, I said, no, that's not where we want. I don't care where we landscape. The whole frontage, I'll do the dirt that you guys, I'll put landscaping, and I don't care what it is. I'll do it, if you want big rocks, it doesn't matter. I just got to do it where there's an opportunity for people to see it. There is no opportunity to see landscaping in the back. None, zero, zilch. It's a waste of time and a waste of money. And that's why I say you've been misled, okay? Because people don't know what I know. I've been doing this for 14 years. That covers that. I'm going to jump to some more things to clear some things up for you. Okay. There is more storage than there is retail. You only need so much of each, right? So it's when Brian says here, the overwhelming majority, okay? No, it's not the overwhelming majority. It's right-sized is how you would say that, not overwhelming majority. The property is right-sized for storage, for service, and for sales. You guys brought up lot line adjustment. Originally, because Modi wants to put with me a car wash on location A, I wanted to do a lot line adjustment so we could have separate meters for it and all that stuff and make it independent of the other business. So I asked for this mod to include the lot line adjustment. Then Kevin, thankfully, pointed out to me, Don, there's so much work involved in a lot line adjustment that it's going to hold up your project. That's when I decided, okay, Brian writes in here, again, misinformed. He talks about the lot line, it's not going to happen, they've disbanded. No, that's not true. You're misled. I'm going to do a lot line adjustment, and I'm going to add retail in location A if you approve it. But I had to wait because I didn't want to slow down my existing project. I've got a bank loan, guys. I got to finish this project and start making payments. Like now. I can't wait around, months for decisions to be made on a lot line adjustment right now. I got to get this project built. But do I want a lot line adjustment? Yes, when the time's right, I want it. And Modi's got a speaker card. He can come up and tell you about his business. We want to do a car wash out there. But he's already in the business. I'm not. I told him I need to do my own due diligence too. I want to make sure that that's prime location right there, A. Prime location. Nobody in their right mind is not going to build it. I think you made a comment the other day. You can bank on it. It won't be constructed. Well, don't bank on that, okay? You'll lose money. It will be constructed, okay? It's just going to be the right thing, all right? We're going to do our due diligence, and we're going to figure out what to put in the premier spot on that lot. And the people I've talked to, city manager, people in the city, everybody loves the idea of one of those drive-through car washes, and I love it too. I think they're good business, right? But we've got some work to do before we get to it. Okay, on page 2, the city's CH zone is intended to provide for professional office, retail, and service. We have all three, okay? And I'm even a little bit, I said this is inaccurate information. It is. I told you it's misleading. It is. I also find it a bit offensive. And here's why. I sat in here a month ago and I said, who in this room, raise your hand, does not believe that I'm going to put sales on that lot? Nobody. Raise their hand, okay? Nobody. Now, these are this is the fictitious name statement for my RV sales and service business that I applied for, okay? It's, stamped and certified and all that good stuff. I'll give it to you guys, you can have a look at it, but you don't go get a fictitious business name for sales and service if you're not going to do sales and service. You don't design your sign and your business cards with sales, service, and storage if you're not going to do it. This was done 5 years ago. You don't need a seller's permit if you're not going to sell stuff. Okay, I have a sales permit for the RV sales and service business. This is my application with the DMV to get a dealer's license, which I've taken as far as I can take until I have a property for them to come out and inspect that's finished. This is off the DMV dealer's website that says it's an active project and that they're waiting for me to come back to them because they can't come and give me a dealership license until they see the dealership. So I can't do anything on this right now. This has reared its head in the planning department no less than 4 or 5 times over the last few years. I've given all this supporting documentation to the planning department, and I continue to hear I'm not going to do a sales lot. I don't know who's making this stuff up. okay? I just don't. Here's a letter in 2019 from one of the largest RV manufacturers in the country. Don, can you give us an update as to when you're going to be ready to take on product at the new Highway 126 RV? As you know, we have many different RV lines, and we, Forest River Inc., California, because they're also out of Indiana corporate, are looking forward to working with you and providing as many brands as possible to your dealership. We have 2 plants and over 7 different lines, and I'm sure we can and will fulfill your RV needs. I would like to get a dealer agreement completed for Shockwave toy haulers as soon as possible so we can get your information into our system. Please let us know as soon as, that's December of 2019. Now, COVID, dead partner, all that stuff. Here's 6/14/2022 from Jack Snyder, same guy. Don, can you give us an update on when you're going to be ready to take product at Highway 126 RV? As you know, we have many different, he's telling me, different lines. We have toy haulers, travel trailers, fifth wheels, blah, blah, blah. We have 2 plants in California, Hemet and Rialto, and 7 different lines. I'm sure we can fulfill your needs. He wants the business. He wants to do business with me, right? Here's one in 4/7/23, same guy. I just wanted to send you a short email after we talked yesterday, because I'm keeping him, in the loop, letting you know how excited we, Forest River, that Highway 126 RV is getting closer to having units on the ground. Now, I had a sign up there that said we were coming in 2019 because I thought we were. But I didn't see COVID, I didn't see a dent partner, and I didn't see a year and a half of trying to take the property back. Okay? Let's not forget that. Imagine what that's like. It's miserable. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but I lived through it. Okay? Let us know when you're able to have units. A month later, okay? How's it going? Right? I'm in this business, and I know what works. And this project, to your point, has evolved. It's evolved for 2 reasons. It's evolved for the better. It's going to be a better project, okay? And when we look at all those buildings, yeah, I like looking at them too, right? But I didn't need them. I need the sales, service, and retail building, sales, showroom, and retail building, and I need a service building. And I can push a lot of work through that, okay? So I've right-sized it. It's evolved. Yeah, but things do evolve. I told you last time I was here, guys I know in the RV business that have 1,500 square feet of RV parts, people come in, they look at it, they take a picture of it, and they go home and they get it on Amazon. So you have to be smart. Things have changed. Times have changed. So yeah, I'm making changes to the business for the better. But the city of Fillmore is going to be incredibly impressed and happy when that facility is finished and up and running. It's going to be a showpiece for the city. Just like Brian said, that big stack on Building A, well, there's one on B2. They're identical. They're just, those buildings are flip-flopped, is all they are. And inside, they're wide open. I mean, if we could do whatever, we have options. That's how that was the play from the very beginning. Okay? So just so you know, the city has already approved this project for Building A, Building C, and Building B optional. And I don't need to be here doing all this and fighting my way for a modification other than I want to add more retail in the premier spot, location A. Brian's right about one thing. I probably will never build Building A there, but I will build in location A. Okay? Now, he writes in here, you were going to have a windmill. I already have the windmill. It's sitting in Building C. It's 38 feet tall. It's a gorgeous showpiece. That big 10-foot diameter windmill on it. It's cool looking. We designed it. The whole place to look like the buildings are designed like railroad buildings. We already have the RV maintenance building up, and then we have plans to build, we have to have some office space, we have to have a couple places to put RVs, and then we have our retail space for retail. And that retail, I'm always going to have RV parts, but, you know, I might have electric bikes in there. Who knows? You know, we got to figure out what works. Okay. The most misleading part of all this is this conversation about Don, about me, not going to build a sales lot. And I don't understand why we're having this conversation. I don't understand it. My architects designed buildings to put RVs in for a showroom. They designed a building with offices. They had designed a building with retail space, 2 of them, in fact, right? So why are we having this conversation that I'm not going to put sales out there? I don't get it. And I don't know why you're being misled to believe that that's not what I'm doing. Everything here for 8 years has said, this is what I'm doing. The sign I've had out there that first said coming in 2019, then 23, sales, service, storage. Why are we having this discussion? Why are we talking about landscaping at 12% when you've already approved it at 7.2, and I'm giving you right now over 8 and willing to put more if we can figure out where to put it? That city park, my property line goes right down the center of that city park. Right down the center. Now, do we let the city use it, or maybe it's dedicated, whatever we've done to try and be nice guys? We did. But that my property line goes right down the center of that city park. And we even talked about getting rid of it, but there's people that like to go out there with their dogs. All right? We said, we'll take over the water meter. It's half of the property's ours. I don't know why it's a problem. We'll water that park, and in that dirt strip along where you think people are going to park, I'll put big rocks and whatever plants you want, okay? We'll plant that thing, and we'll water it, and we'll take care of everything. So we'll give you more landscaping if you want it. We're doing that for you. You want more landscaping, we got to find a place to put it. You don't want it on the storage lot. If any of you have RVs and you store them on my lot, you don't want to be under a tree, okay? You just don't. And take it from the guy that's been doing it for 14 years. I don't want to build something that doesn't work. I want to build something that does work. But I also want you guys to have good information. If somebody doesn't come up here and explain this to you, you can be misled. It's confusing. I'm sitting there, I'm confused as hell when I hear some of the stuff I'm hearing. Restaurant? No restaurant. You know how big restaurants are? We talked about a sandwich shop, maybe. An idea, okay? So no, I'm not taking a restaurant away. I'm trying to add stuff. I'm here for a modification, trying to get a car wash in town. Okay, and I know I'm passionate, and I know I sound passionate, and that's because I am. I've been at this for 8 years. I put everything I got into this. Everything. This is everything I've got to make this happen. And I'm passionate about it. I am. I can't wait to open the doors. Okay. Sorry this has taken some time, but I have to get through it. I want to make sure you understand that when the brain guy, the guy that had the idea, came in here and sat down with the architect and planning department, all right, building A and building B were, for all practical purposes, identical buildings, flip-flopped. You know how they do it in residential areas? They make this one this way and that one that way. That's all that was. The 2 service buildings were identical, okay? Everything inside could be the same. Everything. Nothing's going away. Nothing's getting added. It's what it's always been, okay? And we get, okay. The landscaping, I hope it's already approved at 7.2%. It's already approved. We don't need to talk about it ever again in one of these meetings. It's already approved, but we're giving you more already. Okay? That wall, you want to know about the wall? So the wall is 100% on our property. 100%. And the railroad came back to us and said, we want you to push it more onto your property. That was it took about a year for them to give us an answer of what they wanted. 1 year I waited Couldn't put a wall up for 1 year. And rather than fight with anybody, I said, let's move it. Give them what they want. Now, it did not move 5 feet up. That's not right, okay? In some areas, it moved a couple feet. In some areas, it moved 6 inches. And you should see the foundation that wall has. You wouldn't believe it if you saw it. You'd think they were building a bunker for bombs. It's got 3/4 inch rebarb 10 feet out from the wall with a tongue and groove down to, I mean, I've never seen like it. My wall builder, who's been building walls for 35 years, he says he's never seen a wall engineered like that in his life. He says it's incredible. But we did it. We gave them what they wanted. We pushed it into our space further, reducing the size of some of the parking spaces in the storage lot, which I don't like to do, but we did it. We're good neighbors, right? And it took a year. Okay. The applicant has not provided staff with sufficient information for staff to recommend approval of Mod 4. Let me tell you something. The morning after our last meeting, before 12 noon, we had a recommendation into the planning department. We didn't hear back for 2 weeks. And the stuff that he said tonight, first time I've heard it. Some of the things about, well, that landscaping might not be a good idea. We haven't heard that. I haven't heard it. Okay? So we waited for it. We would have made changes to things if we were getting some feedback, but we didn't get it. We didn't get the feedback. So we couldn't make any changes. I'm ready to go here. If I ask you what color you like and you tell me black, I'm going to make it black. But if I ask you what color you want and you don't answer me, I don't know what color to make it. I'm trying to get a project done. But that's inaccurate. The morning after, before 12 noon, we had a recommendation on the things that you wanted. Now, are they perfect answers? I don't know. Not until you give me some feedback and then tell me what you want changes. You want that dirt thing to have some rocks in it? You want a sycamore tree? I don't care if it litters on the street. Tell me what you want and we'll get it done. Let's work together. Okay? Not like this, like we're doing. Applicant describes parts and accessory associated with RV sales like in a car dealership showroom rather than a distinct vendor and retail sales use. I don't even know what that means. Okay? But I told you what I'm going to do. I'm telling you what I know, not what I think. People might think stuff and write stuff, but I know what's going on. We're going to have RV parts and all the stuff that goes along with them, like a bike rack. It's not an RV part, but it's all that RV camping kind of stuff is retail that you have in an RV business. Even electric bikes are pretty popular. You'll see a lot of RVs going down with an electric bike on the back, all right? That's the kind of stuff that we'll sell at the retail. But put that aside. Selling an RV is retail. That's retail business. That's what Camping World is. They sell RVs. Now they sell parts as well, which we will. Okay? But yeah, we have a retail component. Okay. And I don't want to take Ann's time, but it's written in here, the need for parking tabulation that clearly identifies the parking ratio requirements of the project as required by the Fillmore Municipal Code. So,
I'll address that.
okay, I'll let her address that. I'll just say that we've exceeded it, to my knowledge. Per the zoning for this site, the project should not be allowed to operate until there is some retail use. We're going to have retail. Why are we talking about it? There's retail out there. Building a B was approved to be a show. Okay, that's just garbage. That's all wrong. Okay? You can say whatever you want. You can make up all the stories you want. Building A and Building B are flip-flopped, and you can do both in both buildings. So don't be misled by that, all right? That's just not true. Applicant does not have a permit to sell RVs and has shown reluctance to learn this new trade. Ooh, really? Okay. Well, remember this application to the DMV that, you know, I've done the scanning you have to do, life scanning, all the letters to the, all this has been provided to the planning department. You've seen all of this for years, but I'm reluctant to learn the, I've been doing it for 14 years and I'm reluctant to learn it. Okay? Interesting. That's misleading. That's bad information. I know what I'm doing in the RV business. I've been successful at it for 14 years. Based on the information available to staff as of the date of this staff report, the applicant has not demonstrated that retail, I haven't demonstrated that retail, beyond potential RV sales, it's a potential now. Never been a potential for me. Never been potential. It's always been there. It's in our conditions of approval that we're going to do it, right? I don't understand this. Beyond the potential will be provided on site as a, why are we talking about it? It's already been approved. It's on the conditions of approval. I got buildings designed with roll-up doors, and I don't understand this. It's misleading. This is why I say for me, it's infuriating to have to read this. It's not true. It's not true. It's not the truth. I'm telling you the truth. You're hearing it from me, the guy that that owns the property and is developing it. Now, mind you, I'm not a developer, okay? I just am in the RV business. Okay, and some of this we've kind of already touched on, like the ground cover. I'm not going to go into that again. I don't understand how it would set a poor precedent, but if you think it would to landscape that area up front, then that's fine. The no parking sign, we'll do whatever we can do to help, but I agree with what you said. That's not really our gig, you know. We're not parking police or anything like. I mean, we'll do whatever we can do to help. You know, we put some rocks out there if you're afraid people, but that's not really on us to do parking signs. We'll do them. Okay.
Don, you about ready to wrap up?
Okay, I'm just about done. Already addressed the lot line adjustment. So let me ask you again, before I sit down, who doesn't think I'm going to build a sales lot out there? You don't think I am? Anybody?
Is your presentation, please don't present questions to the planning commission.
Okay.
During the presentation.
I'm just I want to make sure I've answered. Like I said here, I want you guys to have good information.
They'll have an opportunity to ask.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can ask questions.
Okay, so if they're, okay, at this time then, if you have any, I'm happy to answer them.
You want to do, you guys have any questions right now, or you want to go to open the public hearing?
I believe the applicant has an architect that would like to make a presentation,
Well, I can, yes.
and then we'll go from there.
And then go to the public hearing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, I'm Ann Randall, Lauterbach and Associates Architects. I'm not the architect direct, I'm an architect, I'm not the architect of record. Mark Pettit was unavailable and is out of town, so I'm here pinch hitting for him, but I have worked a long time on the project with Mark and with Don, and I hope, really I want to be able to answer any questions you may have specific to the design or the site elements. The parking count came up. I did speak with Kevin earlier today. I think we can clear that up. We're happy to include your format for the parking count. We can clip this and include it right on our drawing so that there is no inconsistency between these. Excuse me, these are the conditions of approval here. And there's a very clear statement that the conditions of approval supersede all other omissions or conflicting annotations. So we will include all of the conditions of approval within the drawings when they are the final set that's approved. We're happy to do that. I'm happy to work with Kevin again to try to limit or omit any conflicting information that we have. We can adjust things. Don spoke very passionately and very thoroughly about the buildings themselves, the duplication of the buildings when they were originally designed, and the just sort of a flipping, a mirroring, and what the building that he wants to include now will include, which is absolutely about retail sales, areas for the sales of the RVs, and some other, a smaller area that's just general retail. As he's mentioned, there's just not a lot of on-site retail for bits and parts and accessories on site. But he did go and mention all of the kind of things, the repairs that he does. There's numerous sales that are involved in that. The replacement parts, et cetera, that go into the RVs when they need repair. He mentioned the landscape, many other things, parking. Again, we're happy to work on anything with feedback or in cooperation with our planner to make sure that the drawings reflect everything that needs to be in the drawings and reflect the accurate information. And anything that's in your conditions of approval, that's what's approved. We'll make sure it gets into the drawings, into the project, into the scope of work. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions or address any other issues that anyone may have.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Cameron? Aaron?
Okay.
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I make a statement? Sure. I apologize to Don if he feels like he's being misled, or the Planning Commission is, or misinformation. That's not our intention at all. It's a mischaracterization if you think that's the case. We knew about COVID and your partner dying. Sorry we didn't put that in your staff report. That caused massive delays. It's why you had quite a bit of time extensions and various modifications through the timeline. You asked, why are we here? Because what you've stated verbally, it needs to be defined, and it's not yet defined. It needs to be on paper. That's why we're here. It needs to be on plans to be presented to the Planning Commission. So we have a set of plans, and that you're then approved. What you're saying verbally, it needs to be put on those plans. Everything you're saying verbally sounds really good. We all agree with it. And we're not the experts on how you run a self-storage business. You are, or an RV storage. So the concepts of a car wash, that's not shown on the plans. And these other concepts from a restaurant to a sandwich shop to whatever, nothing's on the plan. So let's put those on a plan and let's approve them. And you'll be allowed further modifications in the future as this thing evolves as you go along. The landscaping, we agree with you. You don't put it in the middle of your site. That's not good. You put it in the front of your site, and you're doing your best to get there. Why are we talking about it? Because when you make a modification, you open up Pandora's box on the entire project, on everything. So didn't sound like the city or the Planning Commission wanted to try to get 12%. We're trying to improve landscaping area a little bit. Your site right now is predominantly retail or storage, and your zoning is commercial highway, which says you have to have retail. We're hearing everything verbally. We agree with you verbally. Please put it on paper so that we can see it on paper and present it as an exhibit to the Planning Commission. If you don't want to do retail, it is your ability to change the zone to manufacturing industrial.
Doing retail.
Got it.
Don't even go there with
I totally understand.
And I want to point out that's a fundamental challenge, is the storage component of the project that's not consistent with the commercial height. So that's sort of the root of the difficulty in the discussion.
So the applicant's saying, though, he'll provide storage and retail, right? We have to have both. Right. And he doesn't want to do just storage. And he doesn't want to do a zone change. He doesn't want to do a general plan amendment. He wants both, and we're trying to accommodate to do both and keep the zoning as it is. So that's why we're here tonight, and Don, that's why. We're trying to put down on paper what you're saying.
Appreciate you
verbally.
addressing the COVID, and I
Yep.
appreciate you addressing my dead partner and how long it took to get us back on track.
Yeah.
The
We
other
were,
thing
Let's,
that-
sir.
And let him finish, Don, okay?
so all, so, you know, he's being quite frank and honest and passionate, and we enjoy that. I mean, it shows that he's committed to the site, so, and we have no issue with any of that. We did put in, there is an expiration date on projects. They're given in a zoning ordinance. It says, hey, you have 1 year, and we were trying to adhere to that. And yes, building C got constructed before everything else, but by him doing that, he extended the timeline. He's able to continue to move forward and to move forward. If that didn't happen, the project would have expired. That's the zoning ordinance that we're following. So, and he is allowed to move forward. So let's put what's described verbally. Let's put it on plans. We've done car dealerships on the highway. We've had plans for those. Similarly, he'll have an RV sales, like a car dealership, but for RVs. Put together a plan, show parking spaces, show retail space, show how parts are stored. I don't need a full tenant improvement plan. That's plan checking, but we need something, space identified. That's my comment. I just wanted to address what Don says. We have no issue with Don whatsoever, or what he's proposing.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Now we open the public hearing? Because we have one speaker.
Yes, if the architect's presentation is concluded, it seems like it has, we go to public comment.
Okay,
I'd love to address one or two more items that were mentioned, or specifically by Kevin, if I may approach again.
It's
I can be very brief.
up to the chair.
okay.
Thank you. Kevin's request that all of this be included in the plans, included in the drawings. I mentioned earlier in my, again, forgive a lot of red scribbles here, but these are the conditions of approval. In most every other jurisdiction, I'm not sure about here in Fillmore, the conditions of approval can include all of that verbiage, all of the descriptions, all of the calculations, et cetera, and are then copied and pasted and become a part of the approved set of drawings for the entitlement, for the modification. So if by saying, we need to include that all in the drawings, it's all in the conditions of approval that would be prepared and agreed upon by the client, by the applicant, and signed by the applicant. It's a legal document, and again, then that is included in all of the drawings. It's an architectural size drawing that just has all of these pasted up on it, but it becomes a part of it. So I think that's an easy way for us to accomplish that without going to extremes of trying to adjust each and every little parking space or other things. I think that's an efficient way to do it, and again, it's pretty standard practice for most jurisdictions. So we're happy to do that, and again, happy to work with Kevin on adjusting our parking calculations or others to make sure we're giving the city what they need.
Okay, is that a accepted method by normal, Kevin?
No. You need plans, and the conditions match.
We will
So
do everything
we're gonna have a site plan. It'll identify all the areas where the sales will occur, retail sales. It'll identify it in detail, and then it'll be described in language format in the conditions of approval.
Okay, I just want to make sure we have a meeting of the minds here, that we're not coming back
So-
again with misunderstandings.
Yeah, so what would happen when we write conditions that are not matching, that's because we're at a hearing, we're trying to solve something, and one method to get past a hurdle is we write text and impose it as a requirement. But we're not at that method. we're not at that stage yet. We can get a set of plans, and they can match the conditions of approval.
Our intent to do so, yes.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, we'll open a public hearing, and we have one speaker. I'm going to probably mess up your name, Marty. Marty?
Yes.
Marty Balian?
Yes.
Okay, you have 3 minutes? All right, you get 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be part of this community. As you guys said, my name is Moti Balian, and I'm in business of car wash owner, operator, and developer. And I have known Mr. Don Duncan for 7 years approximately. And I want to build a car wash on his property in Fillmore. I was very interested, and I work with the car wash manufacturer and with the traffic count, and it sounds like a good location. And I've been pursuing this for almost 7 years. I'm behind him, as he said, and he recognizes. But usually he don't avoid me. I call him every month. I send him email, text, and follow with him. But he's not ignoring me yet. So he told me that his priority is that he's in the business of RV sales and all, and I have visited his facility. They are state of art. I love to have that kind of facility too. And I told him to train me in the RV business. I purchased a land too. Let's see if he can help me. But I'm good in the car wash business, and he wants to work with me in that part. And my thing is that first when I approach and I approach Mark, and they said that I'm in a gas station. I love to have a gas station and car wash, but when they said that you cannot build gas station, and city was very quick to reply to me. So we pulled that gas station part out and kept the car wash part in. So building the car wash, like his project, I think probably he's out of $1 million+ already in this process. And we don't have that much money, but doing the permitting process, as you guys are asking, put the plan. And before I hire anybody, before I go 100,000 plus into the permitting process, I want to know that will city consider approving this concept. Then I can hire, then we can put the plan as you want. We have plan ready. We have mine. We have currently, I have a project in Woodland Hills in the city of Los Angeles. It took me 4 years to get the permit. So I don't want to be in the same situation with Don that he's stuck I am stuck with him 7 years. I spent 3-4 more years, and then by that time, everything fell apart. So I love to be partner with the Duncan. I love to be part of your community. And if you guys approve the concept of car wash, you guys will love it. I'll make it state of art. And let me tell you the last thing. Buying the equipment for the car wash is $2 million. Building the car wash, whole thing, including the vacuum, the tunnel and everything, $3 million. The minimum cost for building this car wash alone will be the $5 million project. Anybody, any question, I love to answer it, but I'm requesting if I come in, please work with us, not like head-on as I am seeing here. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
You said you own car washes already?
Yes.
A brand of car washes, or?
No, I have a self-service car wash and the express, like the tunnel one. So this, now the one I'm building, I have 2 projects going. One, I'm in the city of Riverside in Harupa Valley. I put my application 4 years ago, and I haven't done anything yet. But in the city of Los Angeles, I'm demolishing this and making an express state-of-art car wash. So I'm not associated with any big one. I'm like normal guy like you guys, but I have passion for it. Like, you know, the people comes, they look at, yes, it's beautiful. I don't put you guys know the conveyor, the belt. I'm putting the belt, not the track, because, I'm so sorry. My boss, my wife. It's too late.
Got to answer that quickly.
So, you guys must see in the car wash tunnel, there is a track, iron, like we call conveyor. I don't want that. I want to build a belt that anybody comes, it's like on the plate, go through the tunnel, do a good job, you guys love it. So that kind of thing I'm in. in the business to develop.
Okay. Are you, is it okay if we ask questions? Not really, not during.
Yeah, it's really not the time for back and forth. This is a general
Right.
public comment. It's not proposed as part of the
But I love
project.
to answer it. It's clear that misunderstanding or doubt in future or now. I love to have one more question from you.
Well, he said it's not appropriate right now. Well, I can ask those questions later when you come to for car wash.
So, Mr. Chair, I just want people to know, so if someone's watching this from home or they're watching on the internet, it sounds like a car wash is being proposed tonight, and it's not.
No.
He's just verbally describing it, right? And the applicant doesn't intend to it right now at the moment, so, I mean, it's just an item. That's all, it's just a discussion that's occurring right now,
Right.
that's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll close the public hearing. And do we have any discussion, questions? Okay.
So I have some comments regarding the events of tonight, presentations. I'm writing notes as we are going. This is independent of Kevin, but you're gonna hear a lot of the same things from me. This project, I've been on the planning commission for quite some time. I've been here since this project first came to us. This location is the eastern gateway to the city. And it might be our only opportunity to have a gateway project. This project, as you saw, it started out as, 30,000 square feet of building property, and it keeps shriveling down. I'm just as passionate about this city and it looking good, and I want gateways on both sides of the town. I want people to come in and say, "Oh my God, did you see Phil? That's Fillmore. This is a great looking place." I don't want to miss an opportunity to have a really good looking gateway on the east side of the city. I know the buildings, they were built with towers, but now we're talking about building A, which is that one right on the corner, being optional. That's the gateway. So I don't want to miss that opportunity. To segue into my next comment, we as a planning commission, we can't take developers on their word. We have to see it on a plan. It has to be on a plan for us to make a decision. So I know you guys said it's going to be on a plan, it's going to be the condition, but it has to be on the plan for us to make a decision. I know you can promise the world to us, but until we see it on the plan, that's when we can decide and say, yes, that looks good. I love what you're talking about. I agree with everything you're talking about, but it has to be on a plan for us to make a decision. I know you had an approved project with landscape that was lower than the official requirement for the commercial and highway district or area, or zoning area. When you came in for this modification like Kevin said, that opened up not only what you're just proposing to flip buildings, it opens up the whole project. So that's why we're discussing landscaping. The requirement is, what we say, 12% or whatever. We're trying to get closer to that. We just want to get closer to what the requirements are. That's what we're trying to get to. For building A, again, I know it's optional in the plan. I know you're talking about putting retail there. I would really like to see building A not optional. I would like to see it required and it be on the plan as this is going to be retail. A month ago, we were asking you for assurances. We wanted assurances. This was one way to give us an assurance, is to put it on the plan as not optional. Again, I'm passionate too. I'm passionate about this city, and I know you have a great project. I want it to be a great project. I think we all want it to be a great project, though. So I really want those assurances. We have to have, like I said, it has to be on a plan for us to make a decision.
Can I talk back to him?
The public hearing's been closed.
Okay, so.
That it, okay. Aaron or Cameron?
I agree. I agree to the point that it needs to be on a plan for us to make a decision. I do agree. And I think that's the intent, that it's gonna.
It's not clear to me what needs to be on the plan. That's what
Sir,
think
there
can-
can't,
yeah.
the public hearing's been closed.
Go ahead, Ken.
I agree. I think to clear up the RV sales, retail, I don't think anyone has any questions, at least I don't, that there's gonna be RV sales. I believe they will be selling RVs on the lot. Looking at the conditions approvals, it's clearly written out, P13, the requirement for RV sales in the conditional approvals. That has to happen for this to go forward. I think we're talking about flipping a building, and I understand your point about the gateway, that I think is a great point. It is on the corner of the lot. We're talking about two different things. The aesthetics of where the building's located versus what the use of that building's going to. I think the presentation we heard today was more about, is the flipping the buildings, are they gonna have retail in the new building? Does that still qualify to meet that zoning area? In my opinion, as a resident of Fillmore, I don't like the project. I think more storage in the city is not a good idea. I think it shouldn't have been approved originally. However, it was approved. We're in this situation now. Flipping the buildings, I don't think is a big issue. I think I understand the stance of, from an operation and development side of the use. I like the idea of a potential car wash. I do still like and would like some sort of reassurance, whatever that is. I know you brought documentation. I know we've heard from a speaker. I'm not totally against flipping the buildings. I think if we keep the aesthetics, we always had one building as optional anyways. It's really down to, I think, the functionality of the building. I don't see anywhere in the conditions approval talking about retail beyond RV sales in here, unless I missed it. I don't see that as a requirement. So us now focusing on the aspect of just that retail and what is that and it being defined. I don't know if that's fair to the applicant at this point. I think what we're requiring is the RV sales. Sounds like that is what's being proposed and will be built and will be operated in that lot. I don't know if anyone else has any more comments.
Yeah, so I haven't been on the commission as long as Jamie has, but I've seen a lot of this one come through. But I mean, from the get-go to the end, or where we're at now, I mean, we've seen it shrivel down. Yeah, we may focus on landscape, we may focus on lighting, we may focus on the wall in the back, but what we're doing is we're making sure we're getting this gateway into the city, something that is going to be around for a long time. And I think that by us continuing to be persistent with what we're looking for, I think even with the passion behind it from both sides, I think that we're going to agree that the end project will be spectacular. I'm not a fan of RV storage, but it makes sense for it with the amount of RVs and boats and Lake Piru becoming more popular. But I feel like if landscape, which I don't know why I stick with that, but I feel like if we're asking for landscape, multiple ideas should be presented. Like ground cover, okay, bad idea. But what about option B and option C? Multiple options in regards to that. Yeah, I mean, I can see both points in we don't need to police the signs of no parking. We're adults. We should know where we should park, where we shouldn't park. But unfortunately, I think that there's times where it has to be guideline provided and then mitigated from there. I mean, I'm on board with the vast majority of the other stuff, but I still think that we need to stick with what was there. If we need to move something, or the applicant's asking to move something, okay, let's look at it as a whole instead of, okay, let's mod 2, we nitpick, mod 3, we nitpick, mod 4. I mean, maybe nitpick's not the right terminology, but it's just, I think that that's the way to continue to get this going, because we don't want to tie up the applicant any further. We don't want to tie up city resources any further, but I'm still not seeing definitive answers as to what's going with certain elements. Others, yes, some others, no. And that's just my comments.
Okay, the only comments I have, that one building was going to be optional, whether it's on the corner or whether it's further in, I'm getting confused with A and B, but so I'm just going to go that the one in the corner, A, thank you, was going to be, can be moved over. It was optional on the approval when it was made. We did say 7.2% landscaping. I agree, I agree with Don, because if I went to an RV place to do storage, I sure don't want a tree there that's going to have to be trimmed and leaves or dripping or whatever. I agree with him, and people aren't going to see it. So make it more beautiful. Let's landscape heavier on the outside of the project. Maybe we do put some trees out. Maybe we do put some boulders out there that will stop people from parking in there. I think that's probably a good idea to do that. So to make it more beautiful, I think landscaping outside, and use that as a calculation to get it higher to the 12%. Use that in the calculation, because that's what's going to be seen. When RVs are in there, you're not going to see the landscaping. It's just not going to, it's going to be a maintenance issue and, a water issue and everything else. I totally believe he's going to do RV sales, he's going to do retail. I don't have a problem with that. If a car wash comes there, I think that's when we're going to look at of what type of car wash that goes there and what it looks like, because a water drop one that they put in Camarillo is beautiful. You can't even tell it's a car wash. And that hopefully that's the direction. If they bring a car wash, well, they will be bringing something that will be not an eyesore coming in with, people standing out there washing cars. He's under construction. He's got to move forward. I think I saw a condition that he has to get this approved before he can continue moving forward with asphalting. Is that true? Yes. Okay. Is there a way that we can allow him to asphalt, because we know it's going to be a storage area in the back, and start moving forward and doing that so he doesn't hold up the construction, momentum that he's got going? Because if he has to bring this back again in November for final approval, assuming everything's done with Brian and Kevin, getting this done, it's going to sit there for almost 30 days. If it starts raining, if he's already graded the areas and stuff, then he's going to have to redo it. So Kevin, can you comment on that?
City staff's concerned with Mission Creek. We allow it to move a little forward, and then he's done, moves a little forward, done, and we never get retail. Right? You allow asphalting, and he says, you know what? I'll get that retail in there. Let me rent each space for $350 a month. I'll get some money, and then I'll construct and do retail. We allow that to occur in there, and then we discover whatever. He never moves forward with retail. So you're creeping forward a little bit. We're a little bit concerned with mission creep. That's why there's a condition that says there's no asphalt until we resolve modification number 4. If you have another alternative, you as a planning commission have that authority.
Can I ask, I think P13 condition of approval requires the RV storage sales to occur prior to issuance of C of O. Wouldn't they need that retail sales portion?
So it goes like this. At conditions of approval, the planning department says you don't have retail, you're not going to be issued certificate of occupancy. The applicant runs to the city council and says, hey, your planning department's not gonna let me open. If you would just let me open, I will make money and I will do retail. We then issue a certificate of occupancy and we may never see it. So we violated condition P13 by allowing him to open due to undue pressure imposed on the city.
And also shouldn't be piecemealing making modifications to certain conditions apart from the overall project itself that's being considered.
So staff's concept is, it's not just our concept, this is how we approve every single project. You have a plan, it's approved, and you construct it per the plan. There are changes during, like we're occurring tonight, and you go through a modification.
It just, well, I mean, in some respects, he could just go and build it the way it is right now, right?
Yes.
And then after he's all done, he'll never put a car wash in there or another retail in
The
there.
car wash isn't even on the table.
Okay.
There is no car wash.
He won't put any other retail in
There
there.
is no restaurant.
Okay.
There is nothing. We don't have it on, there's no plan.
Well, there is.
We talk about it, so it sounds like there's a car wash. So again, if you're a citizen listening to this, we're talking about car washes. Just like when we talked about the restaurant. When we first started talking about this project, we talked about a restaurant. Hey, we're gonna have a restaurant, we're gonna have a restaurant. And I said, hey, I never said I was gonna have a restaurant. It's gonna be a sandwich shop. He's right. We didn't. We never really talked about a restaurant.
Well, Kevin, my point was, if he builds it right now, where A is right now, and if he builds that, that's going to be used for his retail and selling the RVs. They will never be an option B building ever built, right? So I'm just saying that by him saying, fine, I'll go ahead and I'll do it right now, and I'll just forget the mod 4 and we'll move forward and do it. I think we're doing a disservice in the fact that we're never going to have that other building out there.
You are exactly right.
Right.
And the applicant is right too, right? And he's going to walk away from here saying, the city made me do building A. And I've been telling him for years I couldn't, which is fine, and we hear you, but what we're saying is put together a plan that we can approve, right? We need assurance there's going to be retail, either in building A or B. We need some form of assurance. We're agreeing with him on a great majority of the project. We just didn't want this to result to be storage only. He has no intention of storage only. That's not the business that he does. He doesn't want to do it. He's verbally told us that. So let's put it on a plan that we can present to you, and it'll be an exhibit, and that's what he'll build.
Okay.
But to force him to build building A, it's hard to stomach.
Well, that's what I'm just saying. If we force him to build building A, he walks out here tonight and goes, you know what, forget it. I'm just going to do a building A. I'm getting my project done and forget it. We'll never get any more retail out there. Correct?
Right. That's right.
Correct.
And he's also right. No one knows this business better than he does.
Right.
Right. But all we're asking is, like, let's take what you're talking about verbally and put it together on a plan so we can present it to you. Right. And make sure we have that retail.
So what would, okay, so hypothetically, we tell him, hey, come back with the details, like you're saying and what Brian is saying. But he goes out there and he says, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and start paving because I don't think they're going to approve it. He has the right to do that right now, correct?
We'll issue a stop work order.
Because he doesn't have the right to go into what he's already got approved?
If he, oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. I thought you said that he can just start paving right now. But if he builds with what he has right now and he does the retail, and he can start paving.
Right, so there's no stopping him that if he gets frustrated and says, you know, I can't wait another month for Mod
Right.
4 to be approved.
I'm going to build with what I got approved, and he can start paving, yes.
Okay.
Can he bring another mod after his?
Yes.
After
Yeah,
he starts paving?
he can have limitless modifications, and the project can continue to evolve through time. It's an 11-acre site,
Yeah.
and no one can predict the future. Look what happened in the last 8 years. Look at all the changes that have occurred, and this project will continue to evolve, and he should be allowed to do that. We're not arguing that. We're just saying,
Well,
let's put this on
I
paper.
think as a commission, what I'm hearing is there's two, it's kind of split on, we want the gateway building. That's kind of what was initially approved. And I think the other half saying, we are flipping a building, we're not gonna get retail if that building A stays. I don't know, what's your guys' thoughts on getting past this?
Well, I think that's an issue if he walks out of here tonight and says, you
Yeah.
know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and build the project right now. I'm gonna forget the Mod 4. We're never gonna get any other retail out there because it's not gonna make sense. It's not gonna make sense to put another retailer in the middle of RV storage and retail sales of RVs. I just don't think it's gonna ever happen. And that's what I'm just concerned about. But I'm also concerned about, from a construction standpoint, and you know construction better than I do, if he stops construction, doesn't do anything until, now we move out to November, it's not the best time to be doing outside construction, November, December, January, February, right?
Correct.
Especially if we have a winter like we had last year, the last 2 years. Then this project's gonna be delayed another 4 or 5 months. I just hate to see that we go and continue to push this project out further. Almost my recommendation, and I can't make a recommendation to the business owner, but I would probably drop Mod 4 and I'd move forward and just do it. And then if he's somewhere down the road, he can figure out how to do retail there, more retail, because he already called out. He's going to do sales. He's going to have an RV, parts sales. He's going to have accessories to RVs and camping, and maybe the e-bikes in there. So he'll have other kind of retail in there. But then we're going to miss out on, what, a $5,000 square feet of other retail for this location. That's just what I'm afraid of, that if we don't do some type of, I don't even know what it's called, concessions, but if we don't do something where he can move forward and continue to build, this project's going to be kicked out another 6 months. So that's my concern. What do you feel?
I'm sticking with my point that I like the project that you described with building A being a car wash or some sort of retail, but I need to see it on plans before I can approve it. That's how the planning commission works. That's how we work. We approve plans, so it has, that's where I'm at. I really like the project. I like the concept, but I need to see it on plans before we can make a decision on it.
Give us a continuance and we'll get it on the plan for you.
Excuse me, the public hearing's been closed. No back and forth, please.
You have to go by the rules, okay?
Try to help. Sorry.
Could we ask it for her to come back up and ask questions of her?
Is the chair of the meeting, if there are questions, you could reopen the public hearing to ask the questions and then close it again. Is the chair, you can.
Does anybody have any questions of her? No. Okay. Okay, so we've had a lot of discussion. What is the commission want to do?
Well, I'm going to agree with Jamie, because if we do this now, we'll have to do it down the road. We open up another can of worms for potential projects to be similar to this. I think that we need to, my opinion on it is we need to continue to work with what we've got. I understand that it's time consuming and we potentially face bad weather coming up. But again, we don't know the future. It could not happen. We could have a warm winter. I don't know. But I'm not in favor of moving this one forward until we have something in writing, because we have no assurances at this point.
So in the staff notes, there were a couple options for us. One was to deny the project. There was another option to provide staff with some recommendations. I'm taking that I'm providing the staff with some recommendations that I like the project. I'd love to see that retail there, but I want to see it on a plan. So I guess my recommendation is that we continue this. I'm taking that option, that second option, that I would like to see city staff continue to work with the applicant, and let's just take that concept that's been described, put it on paper, and then we'll have something that we can make a decision on.
Cameron?
I would be okay with continuing and given the opportunity to put it on a plan and presenting it to it. I do agree that we need something physical to review and approve. I'm torn on it. I would be also okay with flipping the retail buildings. To me, at this point, it's not going to, in my opinion, make or break this project.
By flipping the
By
building?
flipping the buildings and making them optional.
Well, you and I are the same on that. I can see where we could, flipping the buildings is not a big deal. Adding more landscaping out front, is gonna do it. Other than the landscaping and the flipping of the buildings, what is, the other
There
thing.
are some of the other details that you put on there regarding its presentation along Highway 126, so that we don't appear like a truck stop. All the trucks parked there and street vendors and that type of stuff. But you provide a really good direction, especially about gateways and things like that, and landscaping. And we're all in favor of the project, and you just want some assurances. So if you're suggesting continuing, we don't have to be honored to building A and building B. We can work with the architect and we can work with the applicant, scrap that. Find another method that achieves a gateway presentation along the highway. Define the site, define retail, and present it to us, and we can work with the applicant and try to achieve that, and put it on paper and come back to you. It doesn't have to be at those exact locations unless the developer is stuck on that.
Okay. I'm torn here because I'm like Cameron. I don't see a problem flipping the buildings, put more landscape out front, but we do have to have it shown. But what at a minimum, we would need to bring this back ASAP and get this done. We can't keep on pushing this thing out,
I think November 20th is our next scheduled.
Then he loses another 4 weeks of.
I don't know when we ask the applicant to submit something, it takes a long time. We still didn't get parking calculations until, I don't even know if it came in today. But we could, sometimes if you slow down, you move quicker.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can methodically and in a calculated way address your comments with the applicant, so that when we come to you once in agreement with the staff and the applicant. So that's not going to be November 20th, because we're going to go back and forth with the applicant.
We did this meeting because we felt the applicant was requesting it.
Well, last month I thought we were going to have everything done this month. That it was going to be 4 weeks, and we're going to have it all done. And in 5 weeks, we didn't have it all done.
We literally just got the descriptions that you heard tonight about what's in those buildings. We got that for the first time in an email last Wednesday late. And it was too late to really get that in the staff report, but we got it in. That's why you didn't get your staff report till Monday. We were getting information up to that time. So we haven't fully evaluated that collectively as the city with all the departments and see it on a plan. We have an email. So that's the kind of thing that we would need to, by November, if that's something that can be fleshed out and brought back. I don't think that's unreasonable.
In terms of the building flip that's already been approved, the building A shows retail vendor, and as originally approved in there were two separate components. There's a vendor component or retail, so it's working through those types of issues versus what's being proposed now. It takes time.
But there's no way we could allow him to continue on construction of the parking lot and everything, so he at least keeps on moving forward while we solve these.
He has other construction things that he's doing on site.
He's working now.
Yeah.
I can't talk, I can help you if you let me talk.
The public hearings, but it's,
Well, let's reopen the public hearing then, if we can.
are there specific questions that the planning commission would like to direct?
I don't have any. I think if we took a vote, we're gonna be 50-50.
Yeah.
2-2, so.
Well, I have a question, actually have a question for Don. And so we'll reopen the public hearing then? Let's reopen the public hearing. Don, I have a question for you. I forgot it. How quickly, and your architect can answer this too, how quickly can you incorporate what we were talking about tonight? If you had a direct line, and how long would it take you to get all this stuff put on a plan and sent into Brian?
Well, I'm not sure what all this stuff is, but we could indicate a shell building at the location of building A, at least some facade, at least some proportion, at least some kind of a concept of what building A could be. But we can't go through the lengths of.
You don't want to see something
And then
that's not going to be there. You want to see the real deal. We don't just want to put a building there. Here's where we're at.
Well, wait. I'm not talking about, I don't think we're talking about what A may be or in the future. I think what I'm talking about is we have landscaping issues. How fast could you guys come up with some?
There's only so much property, Gary. Only so much property, okay? We've put a plant on every piece of property we can find. Now, we could put bigger plants, we could put rocks. There's only so much the front of that thing's gonna look great. I mean, on my CME lot, it's only about 20 feet in the front wide, but it looks great when you drive by it.
Well, I get, you know.
Incorporate and show generically landscape in certain areas, and we can adjust those numbers.
And if you have a picture of your facility in CME, I wish you would have brought it to here and showed us and said, this is what we.
We'll paste it up on our presentation materials.
Huh?
We'll take some photos, we'll paste it up on our presentation.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you would have shown us that and said, this is what it could look like, I think you would feel better about it, right? That
those buildings,
landscaping wise,
they're 100 yards apart. Going from A to B, you're not going to ever know the difference. That's how close together they are. They're 100 yards
and it's
apart.
and right now in the plans, it's optional anyway. We may never get it.
I mean, they're 100 yards apart, if that. So that's why I want to help you with giving you good information. You might think one's way down here and one's, no, they're like this on the way down that end. So you'd never notice the difference. What we're facing right now is the rainy season. And we just put this wall in, and the reason we put that wall in is because that's where all the water comes from the north. And they put this V-ditch behind the wall that catches all that water. Now, the next thing is that V-ditch has to go all the way down to the east end and then all the way to the south end before the rain comes, because I can't, it says I have more work to do. Yeah, I have more undergrounding to do. I can't start my undergrounding until that V-ditch is in, because if I open the ground up and then the V-ditch isn't in and it rains, everything fills up, I got to start all over again. Well, it's very important that you understand how critical in development those things are. That's why sequencing is done by developers and the builders. They have to put one before the other. You can't run out and go, okay, we'll do that later, let's go do that undergrounding. No, you fill up everything with water. I had a lake out there last year, a lake.
Well, Don, there's nothing stopping you from finishing the V-ditch, correct? The water that...
We're working on the V-ditch right now.
Right, so you can still work on that regardless of what happens tonight.
Yeah, we got a stop work order 2 days ago. I think it's just confusion because we have a new inspector, but have you seen all the latest on that?
No, I know exactly what's going on.
Okay.
It's not germane to tonight.
Okay.
It'll confuse
Okay,
things.
so anyways, but yeah, we are working on the V-ditch. Because it's critical for us, because until that V-ditch is in, we shouldn't really touch anything else. Because otherwise, the water is just going to, if we get a rain.
So how long is it going to take you to complete that
I don't
ditch?
know the answer, it's weeks.
Okay, so if it's going to take weeks, you aren't going to be asphalting anyway in the next few weeks,
No,
correctly?
it's asphalting's probably, I'm going to say 4 to 6 weeks out.
Okay, so if you came back in November with everything done,
So this is why I wish Scott was here. He missed, his flight got canceled today, and the developer the builder guy,
Yeah.
Scott, who you met last time, his plane got canceled today, so he couldn't be here. So you're talking to a guy that, I know the stuff I've told you I know, but now you're leaving my wheelhouse as far as, the sequencing and the timing. All I know is that Scott's told me the first thing we have to do is be able to handle that water so that before we can start anything else. If we can't dig, like they've already done all the flood, underground for the pipes and stuff that carry water, but all the electrical undergrounding is coming next. So that's trenches and electrical going in. They won't start that till they've figured out the water thing. Have the water handled so it can't run across the lot.
but it sounds like that could be 4 weeks away, correct?
It sounds
all
like
that done?
that to me too.
Okay, 4 to 6 weeks. So if we schedule this to come back next month and we make it that you guys got to talk daily, I don't care.
It doesn't
It's got to
happen
be
like that.
daily.
We never get to talk daily.
Well, we've got to come up with something where you're not going to walk back in here and say, hey, I sent this in to Brian and then it sat there for 2 weeks and he didn't get it back to me.
That's how things go.
Okay,
That's
well-
just how they go, right? You were out last Friday, you were out Monday. I was trying to get home for a week. He's busy, he's got a lot on his plate.
Let's not let this turn into a
I
tax.
know, but
Okay,
I'm
plan.
saying, these guys are busy,
Okay.
so we can't.
That's unfair.
It never goes that quick, is what
Okay.
I'm saying.
All right. Well, you're not the architect on this project, but you've helped with it, you said. Could we get the plans?
It depends on what you're expecting to see for Building A. Building A being your prime corner lot that you are discussing now.
We're not saying, that's the future optional building then,
That's
right?
future-
Right.
if
Yeah,
we
it's
can
not Building
leave
A.
that as future
They don't want to
optional
see building A there, right? It's already
No,
there.
we don't-
You've already seen it.
Then we have very little to change on our drawings and just adding and recalculating some of the landscape areas, it sounds like. If we can still call Building
Help me here,
A
help me.
an optional building.
It's either going to be, we're going to go build Building A, and the retail goes away. That's what's going to happen. We're going to go put A where it
Okay.
is, and we're going to have a service building, and
Which
there's
is
going to
what's
be,
approved
and Building B
currently.
optional, will never get built. If that's what you want, that's what you'll get. If you want an
Okay, Don,
opportunity
I
for
think
retail,
we understand what's
it's
going on.
one or the other. I mean, we're not,
Okay.
it's got to go. We got to go. We don't have time to keep doing this
And there is a retail component in Building A now, though.
in both buildings,
In both buildings, correct.
both.
Okay.
it
So
doesn't
we
sound
either
like-
got to go with, we either got to scrap all this and go build Building A and stop this madness, or you guys tell us we approve Building B instead of A, then we'll build Building B, and then we're going to do more retail on A. And I'm not going to tell you, it's way too early to say what it's going to look like
Okay.
and what it's just too early.
Okay, Don, all right. Okay, let's
it.
close the public hearing.
That's it.
Okay, so, Kevin, I would hope that you and Brian can work with them as diligently as possible to get this thing so that we can get it done in November. I mean, because then we're really pushing it back. So, where do you guys want to stand? Where do you guys,
I would recommend that we continue this to our November hearing,
okay,
or November Planning
20th?
Commission meeting.
okay. Cameron?
Yeah, I think the only feasible thing would be to continue it. It's either that or we're not, we don't have the
Well,
votes
let me
to move it.
restate. I would recommend that we continue this item to our next Planning Commission meeting on November 20th, 2024, and direct staff to work with the with the applicant to, with the items and issues that we've talked about tonight.
Is that, Kevin, is that sufficient direction? Should Jamie clarify the motion?
Yes, based on the discussion we heard, that's enough. So we're going to work with the applicant, and that means we're going to try to get you assurance there'll be retail, which we'll try to figure it out so it's a plan before you, not just verbal. Take what he said verbally, put it on a plan, and we'll make sure that the gateway's identified in there.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? I oppose.
I oppose.
So it doesn't pass, so it doesn't,
Motion fails.
it fails. But does that,
Can I add something to that? Can we,
just a second, we can redo it.
yeah, can we request continuation and with possible elevation renderings of some sort of that front?
Yeah, that would be a plan. You know, we should have.
Not just a 2D plan, maybe
Yeah.
more of a 3D elevation, so we could actually see what it looks.
You should, the next time you see this and we approve it, we should have a landscaping plan. A landscaping plan identifies the type of plants, the size of plants, the location of the plants, and the planting area. You should get a site plan. The site plan identifies the location of where the RVs will be displayed, how many will be displayed, how many will be for sale. You should get a floor plan. The floor plan should show the display area, the retail area, the office area, the bathrooms, that sort of thing. And then you should get the architectural elevations. They already have architectural elevations. They're far along on that. So those are the things that you should have before you, when you make the decision.
I would tell the planning commission too, that in terms of tonight, we don't have revised conditions of approval reflecting even the building swap. So that's something that's got to be prepared and worked through. So it's not something that can just be rubber stamped tonight.
All right. So do we need another motion then, since that one failed?
Yeah. I motion to continue to our November 20th Planning Commission with hopes that we have a more concrete plan to review based off all the comments.
Okay, do we have a second?
And is that sufficient direction, Kevin, or should you add to detail to the?
Do you want to repeat that then, Kevin, what?
I think it's sufficient. I mean, is what I said prior to the motion. Well, we'll get a landscaping plan of what a true landscaping plan, as what I mentioned before. We'll get a site plan, and we'll get a floor plan and building elevations.
Okay. Does that incorporate what you want for Cameron for the motion?
Yeah.
Okay, do you have any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Aye. So it carries 3-1. Okay, Kevin, do you have anything?
No, I don't have anything. I'm available for any questions. You're on the next item already?
Do we need to bring Miguel back?
Oh, we do.
Oh.
We'll see. He might be outside taking a nap.
Thank you. He probably went home. I leave first.
Did I wake up? I thought we were going to set a record.
Okay, so we're on 8, reports and communications, planning, community development director.
I have no items.
Okay, I've gotten asked 3 times this week, is Sonic still moving forward in construction?
I don't know. It's not up to us.
I'm
They
just
seem
curious
to
'cause-
be stalled. I don't know what their holdup is. You know, we don't have a whip to them. We're not the ones constructing the project. It's up to Sonic.
Okay, so we don't have any city hold on them or anything?
No.
Okay. I just want to clarify that because continually UP and I say, no, they're approved, they just need to move forward. Okay, Planning Commission brief reports, anything? Miguel?
No, none of mine.
Jamie? Aaron? Miguel? I mean, Cameron?
No.
Okay, I have one question for you. Okay, I've been obviously going door to door, talking to a lot of people, and there's a thing about neighborhood watch program. If we wanted to put up signs, how do we go about getting permits to put neighborhood watch signs up on, like, stop signs and stuff?
You probably are going to speak with the Public Works Director and the police chief.
Okay.
Official neighborhood watch signs?
Yeah,
That are official, yeah, probably the police chief and then Public Works.
Yeah, I've talked to Lalo, the police
Okay.
chief, about it already, and he's all excited about it,
Okay.
saying, hey, and I did some research on it, and it can reduce crime up to 16% in neighborhoods.
Okay.
So I've had a lot of people, and it's funny when you go around and talk to people and you find out they got their truck stolen out of their driveway, you're like, I'm right around the corner from you? Okay, that's not good. Okay, so.
I do
go
have
ahead.
one question too, made me think of something. Street sweeping, does that happen in the new neighborhoods? Or do we have that as a city?
We don't own those streets yet.
Oh, you
Not
don't?
all of them. They're owned by the developer, and we haven't accepted them. In the area that you live in Tract 5496, we do. So that's why you're not seeing it in your area.
Okay.
And then not only that, so let's say we do accept it as a city, we have to change our contract with the street sweeper, E.J. Harrison, and we'll have to go through that process.
So at some point, possibly.
At some point, yeah.
Possibly, okay. Just curious. Thank you.
I don't think I've ever seen a street sweeper go down my street.
I'm not Public Works, so I don't know.
You know, the
when
thing
they
is,
do it.
there's so many cars parked on the roads, I don't know how you'd even do a
Right.
street sweeper. Okay, I guess we'll adjourn to the November 20th meeting at 6:30 PM. Thank you.